These globalists want to squander all of America's strength, blood, and treasure, chasing monsters and fantasy. So, ladies and gentlemen of Georgia, the golden age of America is upon us. We are in the golden age. This is the greatest we'll ever be. And together, with your help and the patriots all across this magnificent land, we love our country. We will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America healthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Thank you very much. Thank you, Georgia. Thank you.
It starts with a simple question and ends in objective reality. Through our journey from there to here, we find one another and ourselves. And as the next 24 hours breaks free from our last, we gaze onward in reflection of the day.
Come to your own conclusions. Stay vigilant.
Welcome to the Daily Wrap-Up.
Sunday, July 26th, 2026. Thank you for joining me today. Obviously, a lot going on. I thought today it's important that we focus on domestic and what's changing within our country. Something I recently highlighted quite a bit, but I really want to continue to kind of bring the focal point, not just on what ICE is doing, but what is, that was a problem that was already clearly growing within this country long before Trump, long before ICE in the sense of today, but that has clearly gone off the edge. And that's specifically in regard to sort of this growing authoritarian, whatever you want to frame it as, something not consistent with what left or right wants to believe are American values or what our government believes are those values. And so I think it's important that we go, not too deep, but just very clear about what is being allowed and how that's growing throughout this, society from an authority sense, from the enforcement arm of the government growing throughout that part of the society. And it's not new, as I'll show you as well. Plenty of examples. Jason Bassler and the Free Thought Project, Matt Agarist have been doing this for a long time. They have an account, Police to Police, I believe it's 2.0. There's plenty of examples you can go through on that account alone, showing you going back years, decades, how this has been something that's been allowed, which is, to some degree will be there in a society. The problem is not simply, and you could also make an argument about what you see in some of the partisanship where you pick one video out, racially, black guy attacking a white guy attacking a black, whatever angle it is, and then acting like that then encompasses everything everywhere. That's what all of them do. Even if you believe that's the case, that video does not make that case, right? But it could be the reality. The point is that you have a lot of the dishonest nature around these things. So it shouldn't be, here's an example of a police officer violating our rights, therefore that's what all police do. That's not sound logic. The point would be to continue to look into it and see the prevalence, to see how long, to see the consistency of it. And also, more importantly, to see how the power structure follows up on it, whether they do anything about it, right? And this is also just the prevalence and how often it's happening with them choosing to ignore it, but then also how clear it is. The pretty conversation, the people being shot in broad daylight in front of all of this country, and how they choose to acknowledge that, how they choose to deal with that, or not at all, as it would seem. And I really want to highlight what I think this is and where it goes. Now, we're not going to get into, for example, why I might think that's happening. I mean, maybe I'm sure I'll give my thoughts around things as we're going through it today, but I don't want to focus or, really get into what may be driving that, just to kind of an acknowledgement of where we are. And this is really speaking to the people out there who are waking up from the two-party illusion, who again, we can, I don't want to continue to beat the dead horse, but can we continue to acknowledge how very clearly correct we were about the growing awareness from conservatives more than anything right now, but within the two-party illusion. Same thing we tried to scream was happening during COVID-19 with Democrats. And yes, people are still grudgingly admitting that it wasn't as partisan as it seemed. This is the way the game is played from power structures to keep us lost within their illusions. Conservatives have literally turned on Trump. In January, this was clear. In February, this was clear. One point we're going to make today are the people suddenly going, what? Did he lie to us? I want my money back. And it's very frustrating. Even if it's honest, you kind of just go, it's like the COVID point, and those same people made these arguments about people during that and said, how can they not see it? How can they not notice all of the evidence around the science that shows they're killing people? We're going to make those same arguments about all of them putting on the tap dance, the show about how, oh my God, Trump's a different person today. No, it's the same point. How could you not see it? He was the same person. And if you're aware of that, if you watch this show, if you're a nonpartisan, objective person, that was something you knew in 2016. And it's not about left and right or choosing sides. It's about being honest about who we're looking at. And the fact that how transparently clear it was that he was throwing out things that he thought you wanted to hear. And it just felt right because he said things that many other people never wanted to say or never were allowed to say or just never thought would actually, they wouldn't remain in power if they did. And it felt good in the sense for people that believed him is the point. But few of the things I want to get into before we truly focus, which is the main point today on ICE. And it's not even just ICE, but the larger growing authoritarian reality of the country we live in as it calls itself a democracy, leading the freedom push for the world when it is, objectively one of the most alarming places on the planet right now. And that's not necessarily because of how extreme things are, like you can compare, for example, China's surveillance setup, authoritarian, dictatorial, absolutely. And it's at least as it appears far more alarming than what we're currently seeing. But it's about the direction, the stated objectives of our government, the influence from foreign powers, and the fact that they're jointly committing genocide in front of the entire world. We have to acknowledge what this really looks like and what this is. A very, very carefully covered, long-term concealed, window dressing type of thing that is not, that's driving us toward the worst of humanity while pretending that it's saving us from it. That doesn't mean it's there yet. Doesn't even mean, it's, again, I'll leave it there for you to decide how you feel about that. The point is not even getting into the whys and the proof. It's about where we are. And if you want that to be the case, and if you don't, maybe realizing that choosing one of the sides of the same power structure that's doing it to you is probably not the best decision. So to leave it there to start, we're going to get into a little bit about Iran just to get you updated because I can't not, there's plenty of people that I argue don't get the kind of just honest, quick, overview of what's happening on, most platforms out there, even the nonpartisan ones. And so nonpartisan ones. And so I wanted to make sure for those of you that come to TLAV to, see through all the craziness of the Iran conversation, I'll give you a quick update on that. Hopefully quick, because I want to make sure we focus on the one part today. I want to also update you on a few other things around, like I mentioned, around the Trump issue and all, how it relates to the Israel conversation, and hopefully briefly to get into all of that. So let's start first with a shout out to the recent event that we just came back from. I just did not to, oh, you know what? Funny. I have to stand up. I never do this, but I had to grab this only because, I obviously could just play the video, but that's no big deal. I wanted to make sure that we also showed you something that just touches my heart. Kind of the same conversation since I was talking about this at this event, but this event and really just larger Derek's work, I just want to just give him a shout out, as I've done many times over the years. I did at this event itself. Just, it's impressive what he does. It is powerful. It's impressive. It is profound. And it's, if you've never been to one of his events or heard him speak, and in particular around this kind of stuff, going over his past experiences and how he brought himself to here and explaining the conscious resistance and talking about the activism side and talking about the political side and how these things were just counterintuitive to each other. One, and ultimately realizing that they need to be brought together. Otherwise, we're never truly going to find a way past all this. One of his shirts that resonates with me more than anything, and as Derek told me at this event, actually, it was kind of like the core message of everything, which is that revolution without healing is a recipe for disaster. And it's just such a profound thought because it's like right now with them trying to drive us into the idea that we need to and I agree, even though within our own founding documents, the people of this country have the right to remove, alter, or change our government like we would understand in a free society. That's not where we are because that's not the reality of where we are if it was ever even the case. My point, though, is that now you have that system sort of driving people into the mind that we need to violently overthrow the government. Now, maybe that is the case. Maybe you think that's the best path. I disagree. I don't think that. I think violence begets violence. The point, though, is that I have a sneaking suspicion that there's an effort to get us to go in that direction for the purposes of abusing that against us. We need to solve these problems and understand who we are before that is even on the table. And I'm not talking about not pushing back, not change, but the idea of an actual revolution without fully understanding what we actually all, it's like he's pointing out and creating a community. People go, you like freedom? I like freedom. Let's start a community. It all works out. It doesn't, because there's a lot more in the conversation than just agreeing on whether or not we disagree with vaccines, for example. And so to leave it there, there's a lot. I was very impressed with his presentation, as I've seen before, but it actually really touched me, and in the way that it related with people. And I hope you will take the time to check out the Activation Tour and the Pyramid of Power and all the other amazing work that he does, as well as all the outstanding work that he's done with TLAV for the last decade plus. But as I wrote here before I show you this book that I discussed here, I just said such a powerful event. And if you're unfamiliar with it, please check it out, because, it might just change your life. And I mean that. That wasn't some lofty idea. It's about understanding that it's not just left and right? It's not just about who you voted for. It's about so much more than that. And those things matter to some degree. It's about the full picture. And if we really are trying to change ourselves and the world, not to use the same old, the overused sentiment, but it really does have value. And the real sentiment of be the change that you wish to see in the world is actually coming from the larger sentiment that it is if you change the tendencies within yourself, the tendencies of the world will also change. That's actually what became paraphrased as be the change. It's very important to think about. Now, I also have a point about bots, but I wanted to show you guys this really quickly. Angela was traveling recently and ultimately ended up going, and our Orwell in the chat with us here, to where TLAV first started. Now, this picture here, as you can see, is the El Camino de Santiago. If you guys haven't actually heard me talk about this, I was traveling in Spain before this was ever created. I took this picture traveling with this, which I remember correctly, were two German people and a Japanese guy and an Australian guy who was standing next to me. And we were walking. I don't know if you actually could hear that very well when I turned around. Point is, as I was traveling, this developed in my mind. And ultimately, I came back and years passed and ultimately ended up starting The Last American Vagabond. Long story to get into it all, but the point was it started on this trail. And Barcelona is a place on that trail where one of the core places is. And she ultimately went to that location and bought this book that shows all of the opening, all of the stuff on all the different cathedrals and all, and the bottom line is she bought this book and then made a cover for it where it says where TLAV began. And I just thought that was so amazingly, it touched me quite a bit. And just, this is the kind of community that we're developing, the deeper, the community that goes well beyond just, pointing things out and yelling about it. But anyway, that note, I just want to thank you, Orwell, for always being an amazing part of this community and for believing in what we do. Touch me. So back to the point on this. And that's kind of the same sentiment I'm feeling about his events and the people there. Some of the best people I've ever met in this entire experience. And that goes for, same kind of thing with all the people in this chat and the people that we've met, and all the different events. It's something special. Now, talking about real live events, I just thought there was a point to include this in. Nikita Beer says, from Twitter, we found 42,000 accounts automating replies using chatbots and have removed them from the platform. And he says X's core values is providing an authentic pulse on humanity and using AI to programmatically, engage with users without a human in the loop runs counter to our mission. I just can't even say that without embarrassingly not taking them seriously. I just think that's ridiculous from the kind of people we're dealing with. First of all, I didn't even know about this, and I have to probably circle back to this. Twitter's rolling out AI community notes, by the way, which is not even that new. It's just more being focused on as sort of like an AI-driven community notes automated service. I argue because community notes is now working against them because people are actually seeing what they're trying to gaslight them. So we'll just go AI about it, which was always the plan. But real world, that's what I wanted to highlight, is going to meet people and talk and understand and put your feet in the grass, guys. We need more of that. It's what I do every day when I go out. You have to break from this stuff. You have to make sure you're still grounded. And on that note, I thought this was hilarious as he goes, yes, we removed all the chat bots and all the fake and all the bots jumped in and said, great, thank you. I mean, therefore I am, and said, wait, that's a good thing. May says, fabulous. Nikita, her cat turd, says, good job. Max says, you need to be. So all these people, right? When we clean up these bots that are all still there, I mean, do you even believe them? I mean, you want to see my DMs that are full of those same chatbots that have never gone away? I'm laughing. If you want to scroll through here, you will laugh at all of the people who are all part of the same kind of grifting platform, left, right, who are like, good job, Nikita, you're saving free speech. That's stupid. But on that note of the inauthentic reality of where we are, I also wanted to shout out before we get into more stuff, by the way, for those that have not visited the store in a while, I want to make sure, here's our website. Here's the, and by the way, make sure you go to the site and not just through the mediums of other platforms where our content is being streamed. Here's our store if you haven't seen it in a while. And I just want to reiterate this because we still need your support. I usually say something, every other show maybe at the end. But for those that want to continue to see this platform and have it actually be here in the future, find ways to support us because we do this. We put out what we present as our products. If you want to support us, then let us know what it's worth, right? That's how that works. And so it's something we put a lot of time into. I mean, that I put a lot of time into. And ultimately, everybody, the writers, the people that support and content. And at the end of the day, this is one way you can support us by buying our shirts and supporting the ideas that we're putting out. Recently, he just added back the stickers and everything else that are on here. So they're a little different than what were before, but just I think they're a little cheaper as well. Question Everything t-shirt, Truth Conquers All t-shirt, t-shirt. We have plenty of this stuff, guys. Help us support the platform. And this is Ryan Graham from Big Frog. I mean, they're good people. So speaking on the inauthentic and where that is, before we get into that, the idea of Iran, I want to make sure we're updated on just the insanity of it all. The inauthentic nature of what this is. I mean, it really is kind of crazy, and I've been saying this every single time, but just to kind of briefly go through this, I just want to highlight some of the bigger points. There's tons that we could get into, but as Hormuz letter, which, all of these are just stating what is going around. Now, that doesn't mean that it's necessarily dishonest, but just remember that these things, for example, I believe most of these, for the main two I believe we're going to discuss, come from Tasnim News Agency, which is not even all the time accurate. I don't even believe it's even accurate all the time about what Iran says. It's media, guys. Question it all. And so my point saying that is that I do believe these are accurate, but remember that most of these are in a situation that are coming from source, material that's coming out from different, like in Iran, United States, but then secondarily turns out to be a lie. So it was real, but they lied about it, if you get what I'm saying. So just remember this, question it all, because this story has been mired in more dishonesty than most that I've seen. China directly rejects Trump's latest True Social claim that that Xi told him that China would not sell weapons to Iran under any circumstances. So China speaks up and says, yeah, what Trump just said is not true. So just to add to the stupidity of all of this, that you now have Trump lying about what other countries are going to do, or China lied to Trump to make him look bad, as they're clearly, at least as appears, on the side of Iran and this bigger agenda. So really, that's the same way it's been the whole time. Either Trump's being lied to or Trump's lying. And you have to be able to see that by now. So if he's being lied to, why does he continue to allow himself to be used? I don't know. Maybe he's not in control. But we just have to see how silly this continues to be. And this is another one, same thing. United States, and this is on the 25th, has requested a new temporary ceasefire. And as far as I can tell, this is what happened. And this is after them screaming about how they were asked and Trump said no because we're in control and you better not, and all the dumb stuff that keeps happening. And here we are. And Trump has just recently said they weren't going to continue bombing because it turns out their stockpiles are wildly diminished. You guys know all this because you watched our show months ago. You know about this because you watched other people in the IMA and other honest out there that have told you that this has been happening. United States requested a new ceasefire with Iran and is seeking a return to the MOU, which Iran said is dead forever. But who knows? Maybe they'll go back on that because they clearly do seem to want an end to this. And it says, with discussions also expected to include Yemen and Trump seeking to make the Houthis part of it. Right? Well, remember, the Ansarallah movement, which is their actual name, is a group in Yemen that has been under attack by Trump's administration, by Biden's administration, by Obama's administration for my entire time doing this. And they've been starving the country. They've been attacking the country. They've been using terrorist attacks in the country. Saudi Arabia has been doing the same. So it's interesting that it's now back in the conversation. I'm not going to focus on as much today, but remember how long we've talked about this. How long have we pointed to the Bab el-Mandeb Strait between the Yemen choke point and the reality being that they needed that location, especially if and when Iran did what? Closed down the Strait of Hormuz. And here we are. And that's not even technically the way to frame that accurately with where it started and even where we are now. Nonetheless, it's important to see that this has been a building moment that we've been telling you has been coming forever. It's not a big, so again, when we get to the people going, I'm shocked. I can't believe we're here. Well, they're either really stupid, really bad at this, or just never honest. And so the truth is it was always in your face. And now because of Yemen's involvement, it's making this more difficult for them. And it says Iran is highly unlikely to accept a U.S. offer, having comprehensively rejected all negotiations. And so the point is that Iran, as far as I could tell thus far, has said no. That may be changing behind the scenes, but the point is that they asked. And I said, if accurate, and I believe it is, this is very embarrassing for the Trump administration, but nothing new there, and he'll likely lie about it. That's how stupid this is, and that's where we've been. Now, day before that, Iran has rejected a new ceasefire proposal from Trump that Iraq prime minister carried to Tehran. So first you have the discussions going on about the lie of it, right? So they offered and we said no because we don't care. Then you have the idea of Iraq being sent, and they've lied and sidestepped all of this, but this does appear to be the reality, imagery and everything, where they sent through Iraq an offer for another ceasefire proposal and they said no, right? And then on top of that, you have the idea that they're being publicly called out for seeking these things and being turned down, which Trump only gets more angry about. Mencho Sense says Trump and Rubio claimed recently that Iran was begging for a deal, and yet now you have 2 examples in a row, 3 in fact, where they've said no. So I just don't know how you can piece that together pretending they were accurate. And you guys know that they're lying. Someone is begging for a ceasefire, but it's just not Iran, he says. Now, on the 24th, I think it was technically the day before, over to the 24th, we saw bombings from Yemen, the Ansarallah movement, into Saudi Arabia and a very important Aramco refinery. Now, if you guys haven't been paying attention, I'm going to briefly show at least what Iran has claimed that they've hit. You have to understand that they have clearly been consistently bombing major and important locations with basically, there's been pushback, but the idea, it seems as if there's not much resistance, which either means they don't have the lack of munitions, the very thing that they're pointing to Iran and claiming. And so the ability to do this either means that they let them bomb a very important installation for their interest and the world, or they weren't able to stop it. And that makes Saudi Arabia pretty unhappy with what's going on because they're the ones at the front line of this being bombed while the U.S. just lets it happen. Now, I think that's very important. Trump refuses to answer for U.S. war crimes in Iran. When asked about it directly, blowing up civilian power plants and bridges and whether that would be a war crime, he simply said, I won't respond to that question. I think that speaks volumes, guys. Does anybody even question whether these are war crimes? Okay, these are war crimes. There's no way around this. They're not even trying to pretend there's a secondary reason. They're important. We bombed them. So you're a criminal. You should be in prison. But that was the case before he bombed bridges. So same with Biden, by the way. But realize how brazen, how obvious this is. So here's Tehran Times pointing out what the Brigadier General Mohibi said, claiming of all the things they bombed. Now, Daniel simply says from McAdams, how is this possible? Trump said they were finished without military. And he's right, because they have hit plenty of things. So even if one of these, you just saw the Aramco facility, right? So they lied because they're able to bomb, they're able to defend, they have ships. Does anybody actually not know that? It's embarrassing if you don't. The truth is it's obvious. And the only reason you would think otherwise is if you somehow just blindly listen to Fox News or Trump or anybody that repeats what he says. So here's what they're claiming. And this is insane to me. I'm willing to bet you, just based on what we've seen so far, that this is mostly correct. But be skeptical. Radar air defense. I'm not going to read all this, guys, but it says over a 15-day period from the July 8th to 22nd, the damage inflicted on the U.S. military in the region as a result of their attacks is as follows. Radar and air defense, and it goes 7 command and control centers, 3 satellite communications, 6 Patriot air defense, 3 air and maritime surveillance monitoring radars, 8 early warning radar systems, 7 air missile defense radars, 3 EPS radar systems, 2 on and on and on, 5 long-range radars, 2. This just goes on forever. Support and logistics, 6 fighter jets, helicopters, storage tanks, storage bunkers, M9 drones, 6 M9 drone hangars. These things are millions of dollars individually. Some of these things go even beyond that. Drone hangar, command centers, hangars, Patriot air defense complexes. So who's to say whether they're lying, right? I'd imagine it's in their interest to beef this up, so I wouldn't take it at face value, but based on the history, they've been consistently shown to be correct. So the real question is, how much are they hiding from us, and how much is this really happening because Israel is allowing this to be basically their war using U.S. interests? Now, as well, you have the U.S. government embarrassingly come out, and I don't even know who is driving these campaigns right now. It seems like Hegseth and Kash Patel and Trump in a room. That's what this feels like to me, like the bottom of the barrel stupidity. Like you could ask a bunch of junior high kids to make better content than this, and they say the War Department doesn't miss. I mean, think about saying that after you just got told, like, the idea is they've been sort of denying the idea that they even hit that school, even though we know they did, even though I recently showed you again, Hegseth's own map showed you where it was. Israel told you they did this. They bombed it, whether they were tricked into it or not. They murdered those children. And even Twitter, which is now why they're going to go to an automated version of it, says, well, you bombed a bunch of kids in this school. So in the implication being, but that you missed right there. But you see, that's not the point, guys. As Saeed Mohammad points out, he goes, we know. The real point should be, well, then you're probably right. Even though the reality is they're not as competent as they pretend they are, you could take it one way or the other. If you don't miss, well, then, okay, then you killed those children on purpose. If you did miss, I mean, then, or the second part would be then, or you're dumb for posting this because you did. I mean, either way, guys, the point is we know that they did this. Everybody knows they did this. And that's what and they give you all flash, no substance. How sad. Okay, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. And that's, think about both angles of this, or multiple angles. But in the case of, you have this in a lower point since what, March 8, 1983, it says. You have their actual munition stockpiles lower than I think I've ever seen. I mean, I bet you this stuff is lower than we even know. Charlie Belibo points out the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve is now at its lowest since 1983. Over the past 5 years, we've seen a drawdown of 310 million barrels, 50% decline. I remember this happening during COVID, where people, largely conservatives, were freaking out, and in some cases rightly so, about what Biden was doing in this very regard, this very conversation. Now, that's not even to make the point how now they're not, because trust me, I believe most of these conservatives are wildly turning on him, and rightly so. Either way, recognize how problematic this is. Now, I don't even understand why Trump would do any of this if he was able to do something else. This isn't even in his interest anymore, guys. I think you have the same thought I do. I'm not going to say I know for a fact that it's absolutely what he's, that he's under somebody else's control, but that is obviously one of the most logical ways to look at this. Why would he be doing this? Now, whether it's the larger transition of energy conversation, I'm just not really seeing that materialize like people expected it to, myself included. I kind of felt that was an early possibility in all of this. But again, how it ends will make all that difference. You also have Walz, the one who got caught, Waltz, the one caught using telemessage in the White House. And then he got quietly moved to an ambassador, even though he was, what was he again? I'm blanking on his position. Remind me in the chat what his position was on the inner circle of the Oval Office. And he was caught using telemessage, which is an Israeli intelligence app to archive signal. All very clearly documented within the show. Most people call it Signalgate and sidestep from the reality. So he is on this show saying, when asked directly, Trump said the conflict would last weeks. We're now at 5 months. What will be over soon? And he goes, well, this war has been going on for 47 years. And that's the same old stupid thing. That's then just to give you the background so you know who he is, right? The point is 47 years. You've heard this point, just endlessly. That's what you keep getting from people that have now pivoted from, we don't want any more wars, but now we have to because it's been going on forever. So it's a forever war? Wait a minute. You said there wouldn't be any more. The cycle of stupidity when you actually walk through their narratives that they don't even understand, it seems. But quickly, in case you forgot, I made this point briefly, but I wanted to reiterate this. 2 great articles, by the way. This is from Matt Agaris, Free Thought Project. 65 years ago today, it was posted on August 19, 2018. The CIA conspired with the UK to overthrow Iran on behalf of big oil. That's Mossadegh in the picture there. The leader before, who was very much pro-democracy, with pictures of himself next to the Liberty Bell. He was trying to emulate what the US was doing. The only problem was he just didn't want to bow to their interests. He wanted freedom. Or you can disagree with that. Look at the history. It's pretty clear that they wanted somebody who would bow to what they wanted against the interest of Iranians, which is what they got with the Shah, which, by the way, even right now, Twitter is forcing people to, when you hashtag Iran, it puts the Shah flag up. Because totally, that's about free speech and truth on that platform, right? The point is, you can clearly see in this that this was an illegal operation. And that was 1953, you understand. Operation Ajax, when they overthrew Iran illegally. Here's another article from Brandon Turpville, The Path to Persia and the Ongoing Plot to Destroy Iran, 2018 as well. Both go over in depth. This is more written. They're both really well done. The point is, if you're telling us this is 47 years old, as I just recently talked about, well, that would put it at 79, right? Well, explain for me, if you overthrew Iran illegally in 53 and they took it back in 79, then why would it have only started in 79? Basically, what you're admitting to is that you started this. Surprise, surprise. Every story that ties back to the U.S. government's actions in the world, you'll tend to find out they started it. And it's not even a secret anymore, guys. It's not some kind of biased point. You can see if you care to look. Just like with Israel's history that people are uncomfortably becoming aware of now, even though it's always been right there for you to look at. So realize what that means. They're trying to convince you that a war that they told you wouldn't happen, that nobody actually wants, that's not in our interest, is somehow justified because they took it back. Understand what that means about how this will never end. Because guess what? Let's say right now they end up getting what they're supposed to get, or however you look at it, what they get, and the U.S. gets the loses essentially. Well, in their minds, this will forever be something they need to do back because they're children. It's the same mindset of the Israeli government. They will just never stop acting like they need to one up back and forth. And that's why this right now is some kind of a backward situation where Trump is trying to end this, where he somehow won. And Iran just won't let them do that. But just remember this, guys. 53, which is not denied anymore, was the illegal action to overthrow this country for the interest of power structures, not the Iranian people. Under the Shah, as you can look up anywhere. I mean, literally, Wikipedia. It's insane. And they act like it was some kind of freedom for people. Guys, the Shah and the oligarchy lived in lavish, like the way Trump dresses up the Oval Office, either way it looks anyway, whether it's Home Depot or not. And the point would be that everybody underneath them, Iranians more than anybody, lived in squalor. It was despotic. And the Slava, I forget the name of the group, the secret police. It's all very documented, guys. And that's why the Iranians fought back. Now, whether what they brought after that was what you want is irrelevant to the conversation. We're there now. And they want you to believe that them taking back what was theirs is how they started this. It's like every other place, Iraq, anywhere else. This is how they do it. Now, Hormuz letter also points out on the 26th, an oil tanker has exploded after colliding with an Iranian naval mine. I found this interesting, still up in the air, especially since this is today. Now, there's two ways to look at this, or three, really. First of all, this could be false, right? Either a lie or misinterpretation or whatever. But let's just go at this like it's real, because I find this really interesting. As we have been covering, as even I think it was the admiral from the UK made clear, based on the evidence, there's just no way there are minds in the strait with what has been happening. I stand by that because, look, you can prove, even before this last shutdown again, where both of them are doing this, there was a free flowing for a minute. And even before that, there was traffic. Now, even before the designated route conversation, which leaves opening an area that's not supposed to be gone in, right? That before that, there wasn't a specific route. There were people that were traversing the strait, even after Trump said they were mines, and there's no way you could dictate where they would go because it was before this designated route conversation. You had China going through that was being allowed to go through. You had fishing boats. You had random people. It just doesn't make any plausible sense that there were random mines floating around anywhere. But of course it could be. I've never argued they don't have them. Clearly they do. Point here, though, is that I think the most logical is either that this is a lie spun because, wanting to drive the idea they did this, or even crazier, a mine put in the water by not Iran in order to make this the case, all just hypothetical, or Iran put the mine in an area now and hasn't before because the U.S. pushed them to this position. You could decide for yourself. It may very well be that they were there the whole time. I just think if you're honest about this and go through the evidence, it just doesn't make sense. This comes as Trump claims major progress being made in the strait, which undermines its own point anyway, since clearly that's not the case. On top of that, you have Ukraine chiming in and bombing Iranian ships. Now, all this really shows you, they never had the mind for peace, guys. Whether Israel made this happen or the U.S., this is what we're talking about. This is a vassal state. This is an occupied entity. This is literally what a proxy element looks like. I mean, we can go back. I mean, what's humorous about this, as I always bring up, is this conversation was very, very much dissected by people like myself and plenty of others long before we got to the post-October 7th timeframe. Right before that, if you remember, Laura Loomer jumped into this conversation about Ukraine, about Nazis, about Azov movement, and just did a terrible job breaking it down, but completely carved out any connection to Israel, even though this is literally basically a construct of Western intelligence and Israeli government. I mean, it's not basic. It's literally what it is. You can look at this very clear show from 2022. Documents prove the CIA has been cultivating fascism in Ukraine since 1948. Operation Aerodynamic. It is provable that the CIA was doing this. Now, see the Israel overlap over the years, and I could just bring up the one obvious point. If that comes up, what was it actually? Hold on. There it is. Damn it, they used to pop right up. Let's see. Oh, that's what it was. Maybe not. Well, I guess I'll just move past it. Azov. Can't type. Let's see if this works. Yeah, there it is. It is. I think it's important. I bring it up every time, but I think it's important. So the point being that, here's Israel being called out by its own people in 2018. For what? For arming the Azov movement. I can't type today, apparently. There. Cite evidence that the right-wing Azov militia that they were funding, and they're saying rights groups demand Israel stop arming these neo-Nazis. So Ukraine has been this kind of carve out. Now, the fact that they're bombing Iranian ships and killing one of their people, that it turns out to, either way, they killed Iranian sailors. So that means that was put to the case. Like, that was Israel and the United States, in my opinion. Of course, they could have acted independently. I think we're driving to a place where they're trying to kick this into another degree, like, claiming it wasn't, they're not involved. And this is just meant to drive this into, get Iran to take action they can use for their benefit. I don't think they ever had interest in designs for peace. Now, check these out, guys. And now the point on that, obviously, the connection I mentioned, now you've got Laura Loomer going to Ukraine and giving interviews about why she's Ukrainian all of a sudden and why there's no Nazis in Ukraine. You could literally show her own content saying that. She's such an obvious clown. And Trump sharing her content. It's just embarrassing, guys. Everyone can see through this stuff. Even conservatives are laughing at her at this point. But yet there's still this this is the dying empire point. Like, they've lost control, guys. But if you want to understand the full breadth of this and understand that it is definitely connected to Israel, and why she tried to carve that out and hide it, well, it's all included. You've got people like Kolomoisky, who was the financial backer of Azov movement, also Zelensky, also head of the World Jewish Congress at the time. It's just all this stuff is very easily proven. Now, Mint Press News also highlights, in a separate point, the U.S. military opened fire on a tanker in the Strait of Hormuz, killing 2. And according to the report, they thought the ship was an Iranian ship that was carrying oil, or rather a ship carrying oil. It turned out that it was not. And even Israel covered this. Iran's Fars says U.S. strike on tanker in Gulf kills 2. Now, it says very clearly, they say the United States believed the tanker was carrying Iranian gas. The information I can see suggests that's not the case. So all you have is this irrational action taking place where Trump seems to be the one, or rather the U.S. government, maintaining exactly what he says Iran is doing. Just like we told you in the beginning. Now, keeping that for another conversation, we're going to get into more of Iran, but just realize this is going to continue to spin out if the U.S. and Israel push it. They're still murdering people in Lebanon. They're targeting water infrastructure. They're bombing ships. They're bombing bridges and electric infrastructure. These are the terrorists, guys. I don't think that's hard to see at this point. That needs to be clear. And it doesn't mean Iran good guy. It just means that what they're doing is objectively wrong, easily illegal, and absolutely counter to everything they promised you they would do. That has to matter for something. Now, on top of that, in Venezuela, since it overlaps, as we've already pointed out, but this has been going around continually, it's important to see yet again. I mean, we showed you this like with the few days, like right after this conversation, but Israel is now in Venezuela. Surprise, surprise. After they handpicked Delcy Rodriguez. I mean, at this point now, looking back, I still stand by what I said. Either she did all this because she knew that if she didn't, that it would only go worse. So you could argue that her position was, well, if I stand against you, then you're going to remove all of us and put some Zionist in power or whatever, right? And so I'll do what you say and I'll do my best to make it work. Or she's always been on their side. Either one works for me. Either way, it's still the travesty. And the reality of what we're talking about is now Israel and the U.S. have stolen and taken over Venezuela. That's not a war won. That's an intelligence operation where you did a regime change and now you steal from them. And this is the new puppet president that is the U.S. and Israel installed. And they're meeting with Israel. They're stealing their oil. They're, all of this stuff. It's the same old thing we've seen. It's exactly what Maduro told you would happen. And on top of that, don't forget, as Alan McLeod points out, it's worth remembering that he cast his vote in last year's presidential election. Maduro shouted, "Long live free Palestine." Maria Corina Machado, his opponent, said, "Israel's struggle is our struggle. Allows Israel to come into the country. Build your embassies." It's the same. You can't deny this, guys. You have to understand how easily seen this is. That doesn't have to mean Maduro a good guy. It just means important for where we are. One person was fighting for the Palestinian people. At least he said he did. And the other one was brazenly not. Now, State Department says the U.S. welcomes the decision by Delcy Rodriguez and Venezuela to withdraw from the ICC. almost like they're coordinating these things. And the new Venezuelan government's partnership on American-led efforts to dismantle the corrupt and worthless ICC, says the State Department. And I'm no fan of international organizations for a lot of reasons. I don't support government, but in a sense where we do have government, the reality of how these are supposed to work is these are the only mechanisms that are able at a higher level than a government, right? So you have a perfect example of this right now, where you have a government that's not listening to its own people, or its Congress doesn't have any ability to stop it. The judiciary is clearly not independent. That's the whole point for the ICC. And so now what do? They're not listening to us. They don't care what we have to say. Now, I'm not advocating for these structures. My point is that if we're in this position, that's what this would be for them to then say, you are no longer acting in the interest of your people, or at the very least, you're breaking international law and no one has the ability to stop you other than these kind of institutions. And so they're going after them. Now, you can all day long make arguments about why these things shouldn't exist. I would agree. But where we are, you have a group that is doing everything they're saying. They're literally murdering innocent people and bombing bridges on live TV. And that's what they're trying to dismantle this for. The so-called court has been investigating Nicolas Maduro, they write, since 2018 with no result. Again, you can argue he's a government representative. I would argue he's just like all the rest of them when it comes down to it, if his interests are in that need. But you can look at the evidence, as I have, as people like Abby Martin has over the years. Guys, they're lying to you. They're lying to you. Even Code Pink came out with information that showed that the actual electoral fraud they claimed wasn't even actually there, which is what we said in the beginning when all the independent observers said the same thing. Even their enemies, even other U.S., it's not even needed to say anymore. Because the point is they moved him out of the way illegally. So even if you agree with this, wouldn't there be a process for that? Well, no, not with you. Not when you're the good guy with no laws to follow. Good guy in quotes. The ICC has instead wasted its resources on investigating and charging persons from countries that have competent, independent judiciary systems. You mean like the U.S. and Israel, that neither do. Israel's own people say that's not the case. A very famous Canadian judge came out and said, if this bill passes, Israel will no longer have an independent judiciary. That was 2018, and the bill passed a long time ago. This is exactly the point. When you have a system where you have people in our country or Israel where the governments are breaking these laws to such brazen degree and nobody even tries to stop them, that's not an independent judiciary. And it says this is a blatant overreach. It's literally what their job is, by the way. Thanks to President Trump's leadership and efforts of brave American service members, Maduro is now facing justice. It's time to dismantle the ICC. The point was Venezuela joining that call. Daniel says the depth of depravity of the Israeli-led USA is now clear for all to see. They're stealing billions per week from Venezuelan people. Again, that's not even a joke, guys. They're just taking. There's nothing. They're literally taking resources from Venezuela for their own benefit to help stave off Trump's disaster and Israel's disaster with what's going on in the Strait. Nothing's going back to the Venezuelan people. I'm sure they see that by now. They're stealing this money. And as for Israel, they seek American-led efforts to dismantle the ICC. Here's Trump, of course, talking about the Saudi Arabia civilian nuclear program, which is such an insult with what they're trying to claim they're doing in the world, especially with one of the most obvious authoritarian dictatorial states anywhere. On top of the fact that the entire idea of the terrorism problem in our world stems back to the Wahhabi-led Sunni religion from Saudi Arabia. That's not to say one good, one bad. It's about their brand of terroristic mindset that I don't even think aligns with the religion. It's about using it, as even Mohammed bin Salman has alluded to, that the people at the top of these movements don't even believe in these religions, and they're using people underneath. Guess what? That's what they do, guys. That's what Israel does. That's what they do. So in this case, Saudi Arabia is allowed to do this because they work. It's an ally. Who cares if they still chop people's heads off and cut their hands off? And, that's still happening. The bottom line, though, is they made a deal with Saudi Arabia to get that. But then Trump, even though they already signed the contract, said, wait, nope, you have to normalize with Israel first. That's what's happening. Despite the deal having already been signed, he's now going, you have to normalize the Abraham Accord, normalize with Israel. Even Saudi Arabia is probably going to do that, but they've pushed back on even that, even with the alliedship. So my point, guys, is that he, as Daniel says, where their signatures didn't even mean anything. Well, that was a long time ago. They have violated everything you could point to, from UN resolutions to their own laws, international law, agreements, anything. Nothing is sacred to these people because they claim they're the good guy. Makes sense, right? Here's Benjamin Netanyahu coming to meet Trump for the 1,000th time, heading to Washington tomorrow for an important meeting with Trump. Is it not obviously weird that this person just flies over to Washington every 30 seconds to meet with, as I always jokingly do, but it's just kind of an old point this now is to say, hey, the President of the United States will be flying in to meet Trump. It's like that's kind of the joke. I don't know how you ignore this anymore. How random like mayors and people all over this country will just fly as a routine practice to meet Israeli leadership, and now they're like accusing Mamdani of being too much involved with foreign politics. I think they're all part of the lie. I don't trust Mamdani more than I trust any of them. He has plenty of chances and he follows through. The bottom line is that these people are not just an ally, guys. You can see that by their own actions. Now, Cenk Uygur says, if you're a reporter and you don't explain to your audience that Israel was trying to buy the Michigan Senate seat for $50 million, you're not a reporter. If you don't explain to voters that a lobby for a foreign country is trying to control your Senate, you're not a journalist. Now, I'm not a fan of him. I believe he's in plenty of other ways the same things that other people are in the fake independent media. But I agree with his point. And the bottom line here is Glenn says what's happening in Michigan's Senate race is not one of the most brazen extreme examples yet of how U.S. politics is dominated by finance and loyalists. All right, did I read it wrong? Oh, it is. I'm sorry. Just ruined that point. But it's that this is, I mean, it's funny. He says that. My mind almost goes the other direction, that it's just one of a string of normal events that are insane and obvious. But like, I would argue some of the other ones we've seen are even more extreme. His point was that this is one of the most extreme, brazen examples of how U.S. politics is dominated and financed by loyalists to a foreign country, Israel. Other than Miriam Adelson buying Trump, it's hard to find something that competes with it. I mean, this is where we've gone beyond the pale, guys. They're just outright bribing directly people to be in power. They're funding them in front of you in real time, which, as I've shown you, is not the way lobbying is supposed to work. MSNBC has called this out. That's not to say that you should trust the mainstream media, that it's just that obvious. These people are not on your side. Now, in regard to Israel support, it's becoming undeniably clear that nobody supports this country. The world around, but largely in the United States, is the point now. He says, we're just talking about the Democrat base anymore. We're not. They mean the general electorate has turned against Israel, says CNN. Think about that. This is not the left issue. It's an American issue. Now, CNN is only calling this out because they have to. At this point, guys, nobody is missing this anymore. And as Caitlin says, you're being told there's a dangerous explosion of Jew hatred to literally cover up the fact that there's actually a very healthy explosion of Israel hatred. I agree. Now, here's Tucker Carlson telling you what he thinks about what should be happening to people like Trump and the administration or any politician voting for the NDAA to merge these militaries. Now, it's crazy to me. I agree with their point. But what's wild is that why wouldn't he have been able to make these points a year ago, 4 years ago? You see, and maybe he just didn't see it. That is possible, guys. And I hope that that's genuine, but I just have, or the fact that he still tells you JD Vance is the guy that wouldn't do this, despite him literally saying that he agrees with all of this and supporting Trump every step of the way and gaslighting you on all. I mean, it just seems insane. Nonetheless, here's what he said, and I agree. And it's a pretty strong point for people who are in this movement or even kind of walking that line, because I agree in the sense that these people it's essentially treason if you really want to break it down.
Party has decided that the interest of Israel is more important than the interest of the United States. The Republican Party has decided that the interest of Israel is more important than the interest of the United States. There are a couple of exceptions, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massie, and they were driven out of the Republican Party. So it tells you what the priority is. The priority is serving Israel. And even if I liked Israel, which I do not, because it's committing genocide, I think we deserve sovereignty. So it's really that simple. Well, I think America lost its sovereignty many years ago. I mean, CIA and Mossad have worked together, in some cases, really as one for over 60 years. I mean,
Okay, same point. I mean, that seems to sound like that goes a long way. I agree. So why, if it's that clear, how did you only just now put this together? You see what I mean? Like, that's hard for me to ignore, guys. I mean, even if you want to pretend that he really sees it right now, what that shows me is that he kind of always has for a while and only just now decided to really care or whatever it is, so it's just, I'm very skeptical, as you should be, of him, of me, of anybody. But I know you get what I'm saying, is that if it's been that clear and that long and 60 years and Mossad clearly control, then you could have made that case before Donald Trump and you would have been just as right. It's just becoming undeniable right now. But that worries me. It really does, because this type of person with that level is going to eclipse all of us doing this in an honest way, right? Because people will hear what we're doing, they get, somebody, a friend gives them our link because the algorithm will never show it to them. And suddenly they look for this content and they get thrown Tucker Carlson. You know, hey, maybe that'll be a good thing in the future. And I'll end up looking back going, I'm so glad Tucker changed sides. But I'm worried that that's not the case. And I'm worried what it means is that people like that are the ones that will, what I've talked about my entire life doing this, that they will give you partial truth. Like the best lies are mostly truth, right? And so they give you what you want to hear only so they can then turn, where it matters and be like, oh, and then vote for JD Vance is where I feel like this goes.
Of course, Mossad has fed repeatedly disinformation lies to American policymakers over decades, including the lie that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. That fundamentally came from Israel. There's no dispute about that. The lie that killing the Ayatollah, the Shiite Pope, would lead to the collapse of the Iranian government. No American intelligence agency said that. Mossad said that. And Netanyahu told Trump that. So there's a long track record of the United States, its people, its 350 million people, being misused by Israeli intelligence.
And what that shows you right there is that Trump, in that moment, made a conscious decision to listen to a foreign country over his country. I don't know how you can miss that.
So the idea that you would merge them formally is a generational disaster. It's also humiliating, of course. It says to the people of the United States, you have no control over your own country. You were told this is yours. You run it. You own it. You're a shareholder in this enterprise.
Isn't it a form of treason?
So, well, it's the definition of treason. It's the definition. This is treason. This is acting against your own nation on behalf of a foreign nation. But a lot of Americans are waking up to the fact it's not a minor problem. It's not an ancillary problem. It's not just something we should fix in the future. It is the problem that led us into a war that's ending American empire and going to cause massive economic disruption.
Well, good. Ending American empire should be what we're all fighting for, or empire anywhere. It's a funny thing to frame it as, and it's not, and by the way, it's not ending American anything. It's ending whatever is ruining American everything, or rather just the American people and the United States people of this country. Because America, by the way, includes more than just the United States. I hate the fact that it becomes American, just, then South America, right? It's just crazy. The point is the United States is the people of this country. So what is happening is them trying to ruin that. And if we stop this, it would not be stopping and ruining America. It would be saving the people that are America and stopping the power structures that are not, that pretend to be.
Here and in Europe. So the idea that the Republican Party would support a merger of U.S. and Israeli intelligence,
Democrats
IDF and Pentagon,
is
so deranged that, you have to root for treason trials, for Nuremberg trials at some point. And the president could veto it. He won't, because he's a slave to Israel. We're against genocide. We're against book burning. That's what we learned from the Nazi period. And all of a sudden you wake up and we're like, no, genocide's totally fine as long as Israel's doing it. In fact, it's not genocide. In fact, if you call it genocide, you're the bad person. What? No. The person committing genocide is the bad person.
It's just such a hard, we've learned these lessons before, we've done this already. Tucker made fun of 9/11 truth people way long into the conversation until suddenly he started talking about it like a few years ago. It's just hard to take that seriously. The idea that what you're saying right there are things that we were screaming to the hatred of, most of the internet way back before it was comfortable to do, as Steve calls the dangerous, right? He's out there saying the dangerous thing when it's safe to say it. You know what I mean? And it's just hard not to take that, take it with a grain of salt, guys. That's the point. But I think we should be very skeptical. Now, in that same vein of conversation, what we got was a lot of people that, fair to point out that, as you guys know, the reason the INA was created, Derek and Whitney, myself, recognized before in 2024, before the election, that we recognized this weird shift that everyone can see right now, this weird shift in the media, this weird shift in where it was going with the AI and technocratic direction. And so what we started doing when we made the IMA, and there were people that were able to see beyond partisanship, recognize the objective nature of the Israeli genocide that was taking place. It wasn't about sides and the two-party illusions and what was the other one? I think just, nonpartisan objective kind of stuff. And the bottom line is that it was created because we saw this coming, right? And so we turned around and said, this is what we see. And we think that Trump and Kamala are part of the same problem, the same, whether you think they're working together or not, it's the same thing. And no matter which direction you go, you'll get the same thing. Iran war was going to happen whether Kamala or Trump went in there because Israel was making that happen. And we tried to call that out. And that wasn't black-pilled. That was simply acknowledging the reality and trying to find solutions around it. We weren't saying, give up. We said, recognize this, and then let's actually fight this in the way that is that's capable of actually stopping it, not just picking a side in that same problem. And so people like Luke Rudkowski and people like Alex Jones and the rest, they called us black-pilled. They called it a purity test. They said, that Trump was the one that was going to say, and here we are. And so look, again, I hope that they're changing their minds. But the point needs to be made is that acting like right now we suddenly are blown away by the fact that these people are saying something different or doing something different, that's a play in and of itself. Because it's been clear for a long time, as I have been showing you. And now for them to go, was he just lying? Well, yeah, man. Really? And I'll even just speak quickly to a person's point that they made right here. He says, this dude, Luke, is still playing like he got fooled by a career politician 15 years after he was at Occupy Wall Street with fellow controlled op Tim Pool. Trump was doing business with Epstein back then. You must have missed it despite it being your career. I mean, you have to realize, if you look at the old work of this person who was calling out the two-party illusion, going to these things and filming them, like an early element of that, whether it was honest to begin with or not, the point was he was making arguments that he now completely compromises. Now, who knows? Maybe he changed his mind. But to act like this is, somehow discovering this for the first time, like you got tricked by a politician, either that should be representative of the naivety within all of this, or a willingness to fall in line when it's beneficial. Because the truth is, the old person that we used to talk, they never would have been like, oopsie, a politician fooled me into believing in him. I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. And I said, why don't you point out all of us who tried to warn you of exactly this happening while you're pushing people to pick a side? It's easy and costs you nothing to point back and criticize right now. I prefer we start actually calling these things out when they can still be stopped. And here's the video first. Before his comment was short anyway.
These globalists want to squander all of America's strength, blood, and treasure, chasing monsters and phantoms overseas. In addition, there must also be a complete commitment to dismantling the entire globalist neocon establishment that is perpetually dragging us into endless wars.
So is Jones now finally admitting that he is part of the globalist agenda as he pretends to continue to call it the globalists? Probably not. I mean, frankly, guys, I haven't talked about it in a while, but if you remember where we left off with the calling out Alex Jones reality and was just one part of the larger thing, where he was like, he literally called Alex Jones by name and made fun of him and called him called him out. He still supports him, like I told you would. And I'm willing to bet you anything that even though he'll make comments, when you really look in, he's clearly still on his side, and very much so is going to support the direction of the party. Midterms, all of them doing the same thing. Worth noting on that, guys.
Fight for freedom and democracy abroad.
We should have never gone into the Middle East. We should have never gone into the Middle East. Under my leadership, we will turn the page forever on those foolish, stupid days of never-ending wars.
We're rebuilding our military stronger than ever before, and we are not going to deplete it again on stupid, senseless, endless wars.
Yep.
World War III has never been closer than it is right now. We need to clean house of all of the warmongers and America last globalists and the deep state. I am the president who delivers peace.
I was the first president in decades who didn't start a war. And the worst, most incompetent, most corrupt president in history is going to drag us into World War III. And this horrible, horrible president is dragging us toward World War III. We're going to be in World War III soon. Because I think we would have been good with Iran. I don't want to do anything bad to Iran. Large sections of the Middle East. I mean, look at the death and destruction that's taken place.
I don't want to do anything bad to Iran. Wait, you mean the group that you call terrorist monster, like every possible negative thing you've ever thought to say, that if you just want to rape your women and steal your, hate democracy, hate the Jews. But yeah, I don't want to hurt Iran. If you have any brain cells, you can go back and look and realize he was lying in one part of it. He lied then or he's lying now. You can choose, because these things can't make sense together. That's he's been doing this even in the Ron part recently, where he comes out and goes, "Oh, they're not that bad. We can make a deal. They're good people." And then 30 seconds later, they're sadistical maniacs that want to. That's, I mean, either he is just that stupid or he thinks you're that stupid.
And none of this would have happened if I were president. Our opponents join with warmongers and neocons to wage endless wars, these wars that never end. Together we're fighting to secure our borders, end the endless foreign wars, and defend the working people of America. But the Muslim and Arab voters in Michigan and across the country want a stop to the endless wars and a return to peace in the Middle East. That's all they want.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, those are the same people, by the way, that he called terrorist, monster, freeloading, grifters, and frauds, right? Funny how that works.
Speaking of World War III, I'll keep you out of World War III. What would happen if we had a war? We won't, with me, but you will have World War III, I believe, without me, but we won't have. I will be sure that World War III will not happen. I'm the only one can say it won't happen. But I stand here today, and I'm the only candidate who can make this promise. I will prevent, and very easily, World War III, very easily.
What a creep. And just the way he even does that just makes me uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Like, it's just weird. Very much so. Okay. And again, if you know, for those that are new to this, you need to make sure you go back and look at our long coverage that span multiple sides and presidents. And I believe they're, in my mind, they're all in the same category for different reasons in some cases. You know, Biden's creepiness is in a different angle for sure. Well, maybe not when you understand the Epstein files. But the bottom line is that these people are just not what they pretend to be. And so here, the point is he's posting all that and he says, was Trump lying the whole time? Or was he just a puppet the whole time? Now, of course, the first will point out that there's sometimes there's a benefit, or rather a use to framing something and, you know, posing the question that often people will misunderstand that I actually don't know. You know, how do you not know that? And I was like, well, I do. I've commented on it. My point is I'm asking that question to get people's mind in a certain place. So maybe that's what he's doing. That's certainly possible. I don't think that, based on many other points we'll see in a second. But at the end of the day, you know, it's obvious that he was lying. What do you mean? So was he just lying? Well, yeah, man, that's where we're watching that. We can prove now that it was. So this would have been what you would say before it was clear. You know, the point is, the evidence is that he was lying from day one. He was lying in 2016. And somebody that's been doing this long should be able to understand that politicians lie for a living. So it's important to note that not only is he going, what? But he was pushing people to vote for this person. So that makes this a little bit different, doesn't it? So in case you forgot, here's what Night Watch Nate points out. This is what he did after Trump won.
Hold on.
I got this one.
We got a jam-packed house here. Andrew Meyer, don't taste me, but there you go. Yeah!
Let's go!
Careful with that computer.
Alex, I told everybody earlier, Alex.
I'm covered.
If you and me and Gary, the numbers guy, and Luke, if we all go Super Saiyan at the same time, screaming into these microphones, that's going to seal the deal for Trump, Alex. Are you ready? Are you ready to go Super Saiyan with us? 1,
2. Yeah.
Now the frogs will no longer be gay. We're going to end fluoride. We're going to end chemtrails. We are going to restore the republic.
How'd that work out? The frogs being gay. Oh, so you mean like endocrine disrupting chemicals that are more rampant now than ever. Fluoride, they fought to keep in your water. Let's just go down the list of all the things they were, yay! Why? Because he yelled, Ron Paul. Yep, didn't happen. You know, gosh darn it, guys. You know, and they probably believe this stuff. That's, you know, I believe they're part of We Are Change. I mean, they who knows? But I don't believe that Luke did. I think Alex probably knew that these were, that's just my opinion. But guys, how do we not acknowledge this? And this is not even about, like, let's just say they genuinely now change their minds. That still makes this valid to understand. As this goes forward, are they going to fall for Vance? Are they going to fall for the next claim? I mean, you know, again, even though in that moment when it happens, I'll also be hoping that it's genuine and questioning it the entire time, like I did this time. Will they do that, or were they going to jump in with the next team? Are they going to vote for the midterms based on what the team says? You know, guys, you know. I don't need to convince people of this. I'm just trying to make sure you understand that it's not unique. If you don't feel like you're alone, The whole effing country sees this, in my opinion, right now.
I am so fucking excited. I know we're on YouTube, but I am so excited.
They will never take our freedom. They will never take our republic. 1776 will live again.
Give us your war cry, Alex. For frick's sake.
Already did.
Amazing, man. This is such a relief. There's so much.
And what they were telling you at this time, they did this, right? We had a role, because they did. Alex played a larger role than most anybody in this field of getting that person into power. Now, I'm not going to say that Kamala would have been any different. That's not the point, guys. It's about understanding that this was something. We had a moment right there where people were true. I mean, even Trump's 2016 run, the reason he was put there is because people were waking up to wanted something different. So they gave you something different. Now we're going to get the fake third party too, which is what I've been expecting. That's what I believe, but I won't blindly assume. I'll hope for the best, but I'll call out what I'm seeing. Just got to call it out.
Joy and happiness here that you could see all around us, and truly, man, this has been such a hard fight. There's been so many ups and downs. There's been so many times where you're kind of like thinking, holy cow, things could go so bad. Things could be just so absolutely awful. But now we have this ray of hope. We have this situation where we get to decide our own futures, and that's an.
Oh yeah, how's that, bud? So we get to decide. How do we get to decide our own futures? Like, let's just even say Trump was exactly who you wanted. Do you really naively believe that by voting for a president that you now get to decide your own future? Do you actually think that he actually believes that? I don't.
Amazing feeling. They have the House, they have the Senate, they have the Supreme Court, they have the presidency. We have independent media, we have social media platforms, we have everything.
And what's we? The Republican Party? Freedom? I mean, guys, this is such a stark overlap. It's just you can't not see this right now and realize we have this and we've taken control. Who are you talking about? Wasn't the people, guys. Clearly wasn't even Americans.
No, this is a chance to really unify everybody. This is a chance to really make people understand the full potential that we really have in front of us. I mean, I say he comes out as a unifier. He comes out and says, we did it. Now's the time we come together as America and we work on releasing all of the energy sources.
No, he gave you Stargate, right? He gave you the opposite of Maha. He started wars. He lied to all of you. He sold you down the river. He sold out to Israel from day one, right? The great unifier. I mean, my thing, guys, it's not even just about saying that's not true and he was wrong. It's about asking whether he even believed it when he said that or whether he just gave up and said, this is what's going to make me money. This is what content's going to reach. It's not even about Luke, guys. It's about the reality of the larger thing that we keep seeing. And if you keep falling for this, if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to keep getting the same thing.
Is releasing us from the bureaucracy, from all the government in our life, and allows us to actually...
Voting for a government is going to get the government out of our lives. Yeah, how's that worked out historically? Something that Luke actually used to talk about. Funny how things change.
Move forward in a way that allows us to have total freedom and liberty from, of course, those people that were putting a boot on our throats before.
You realize Luke has had many interviews with people like Larkin Rose, right? Many different people who talk about the statist reality and why there is no such thing. What he's talking about is a complete bastardization. It is something that look, I could go all day and show you things where he intellectually and talked about, talks correctly about things that are highlighting the illusion of government, talking about the two-party illusion. I don't know how in the world you could come from that to this. Right? And then now obviously seeing that that's not even remotely where it even ended up. Like, how do you even map that arc?
What do you guys think?
Donald Trump is our Augustus Caesar. Hail Caesar.
Yeah, well, that's a little bit more accurate than you realize, isn't it? Right? Like a dictatorial, like our Caesar. So weird. I mean, I don't even know what that's supposed to mean, right? Like, so for the podcast, like he says that and then they just look around uncomfortable. I mean, what is that supposed to mean? Are you actually suggesting that is the reality, or is it uncomfortable because he said it and it's not true, or maybe because it is a little too true? You don't even know. I don't even know. So, continuing, as Brad Miller, who by the way showed up at the event in Nashville, such a great guy. If you don't remember our interview with him, I'll grab it real quick. I think it's the first one. 101st Airborne resigned in protest. He even well, I don't know. I don't know if he wanted me. I was going to say something. Maybe I said in a conversation, but I don't know if he might want me. It doesn't matter. The point would be he resigned in protest. Nothing crazy. Just something we were discussing when he was at the event. And I'll leave it off. But the point was that he resigned in protest, right? And I mean, what a courageous thing to do at a time when it wasn't something he, in the midst of this as the commander. Anyway, check it out for yourself. 101st Airborne Battalion Commander relieved of command for refusing COVID. Now, he was relieved of command, but he resigned from the military in protest. Anyway, he was there at the event, and he posted, "Some of you just never paid attention to who Trump really is," to Luke saying this. Oh, and by the way, of course, this has 1.6 million views, most of which is being framed as, yeah, we agree, what happened? And it's an out, guys. It's an out for people to try to pretend that they got fooled because, somebody lied to us. No, he was right there in front of you the whole time. Who lied to you were the people who were misrepresenting what he was, like this person, like Alex Jones. That's the point. And I showed you that one already. And this is another one. So what I'm noticing in all this, guys, is that the other one was the day before, and clearly it got a lot of reach, right? So 1.6 million people. That's a viral post. So clearly what I think is he tried to emulate that 2 more times. That's my opinion. But he came out so many hours later posting what Thomas Massie said, which is, as I've already shown you, they ask why I'm the only Republican to vote no on Trump's spending bills. Well, he awarded Pfizer contracts worth $1.24 billion for COVID shots. You know how you already know this? Because you watched this show, as I posted down here too. So you knew this in June if you followed the TLAV platform. You knew it before that if you follow Jeffrey Tucker, whatever you think about him. That's not the point, is that he posted it, which is where I saw it. So I think he posted it the day before I did the show. So clearly, though, you knew about this a month ago if you actually followed this kind of platform. And that's just demonstrating our value for you guys. And so it's funny that he comes out and he goes, "What the hell is Trump doing?" The journalist is blown away by this story that's been out for a month. And he said, I want my money back. We were all scammed. Yeah, that's the truth, isn't it? Everybody was scammed with the person that you convinced us to vote for, or convinced others to vote for. And I said, you scammed yourself, Luke. It was obvious from the start, and you know it. Especially since in 2024, you all called us blackpilled for trying to call your attention to what you're currently claiming is a surprise. You get why I'm reiterating this, guys? I mean, I find this to be relevant. Again, here's 2026 later in the day. Or excuse me, July 26th, later in the day. Mario Nafal says, late Lindsey Graham says Trump and Bibi are like Roosevelt and Churchill. You need to see this unreleased documentary footage. Okay, so the point is, Luke says, what the hell happened? Which got much less engagement because it's, you did it once. Come on, let's move past it. The point is that this is the same kind of thing. Like, what did we miss? Well, everything, apparently. Lindsey Graham? I mean, the very guy that you guys all said was the worst, guys, you could prove to yourself if you care that there's dishonesty throughout all of this. Partisan advocation for their own benefit. Same thing here. J.D. Vance told Joe Rogan the COVID vaccine made him sicker than he's been in 15 years. Worse than catching COVID 5 separate times. Oh, you see the manipulation in that? Either way, Luke says, but Trump is still paying Pfizer for COVID vaccines. Right. I mean, like the thing that that you knew about, and see, Vance is using this. He's using this, but so now he's framing this as, but I'm, but Vance is lying to you. Well, guess what, guys? You knew this from the beginning. This is not some new hot take to realize that they're deceiving you. But I just think what's happening right now is an effort to try to take control of the way this goes. That's what these people, and I'm not even pointing to him in particular, but just the mainstream alternative media, it's what they do. Frankly, I see this as more of somebody who leaned into just what was easy and profitable. But however you look at it, the system is clearly about trying to keep you, keep these things. Like the moment we start to see major attention on something, the fake independent media jumps in to drive it in a controllable direction. That's how I view this. Here's another example of this. Steve Brown came out and said, he never promised no more wars after Mel said something that was accurate. You're a liar and a moron. Well, even Twitter says, well, yeah, he literally did. And everybody knows that. But here's the clip. And my point is about the same kind of idea that this, even though this is corporate media saying it, And that's what causes some people to go, then it must be false. It's not false. He did say it many times, as you all know.
No new wars.
First of all, I didn't guarantee no war.
Insisted no new wars.
It's so strange. So much StreamYard stuff is happening. I'm not even going to get into it. I have to restart the video every time because apparently the audio doesn't play for the first 5 seconds until I restart it. I'm telling you guys, I could write an entire book about the insane things that happen on every single electronic thing in my life. Anyway, start the clip again.
Insisted no new wars.
First of all, I didn't guarantee no war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. No more wars, no more disruptions. We will have prosperity and we will have peace. Under Trump, we will have no more wars, no more disruptions, and we will have prosperity and peace for all. I am the candidate of peace. I am peace. We will turn the page forever. One of those
Think about how
foolish,
hubristic
stupid
that is.
days of never-ending wars. They never ended.
Okay, so the point is, you won't do that. Oops, wrong post. Oh, that's why. God, this whole thing. I'm sorry. Hold on. Getting turned. Since I have 2 windows open, I get mixed up on this sometimes. Okay, so obviously the point is not just about that. You all know that. I mean, anybody who has brain cells could have seen. I mean, you heard him say it. He said it on the campaign trail. This is my point. Most conservatives who are honest, which I believe is the majority on either side of this, aren't going to lie about that. You all know he did that because you wanted that. And so what you get are either people who are actually that stupid, Steve Brown, I don't know, or he's lying for his own agenda. So think about what that means internally, that it's not, it's the truth, but you're lying for the team. That's the minority, but it exists. Or you actually don't know that somehow, which is pretty sad. And that shows you the kind of lack of intelligence or awareness of the people that fall into that. Also the minority. But Mel said, yes, he did. Yes, he did. Trump is a liar here and you are the moron. So my point is, like with Luke, is how did you not see that, Steve Brown? Are you either lying about this or did you somehow just not allow yourself to see these things? And I don't know, guys. Either way you look at it, that's a huge part of this conversation of the same people that have overcommitted, like the mothers who gave their children COVID shots and refused to admit that they hurt them because they just don't want to accept what they did. It's always part of this. So on Trump's side of this and the dishonesty around it, this is the kind of thing that was happening and was happening last time too. If you didn't see this, Trump comes out and puts out a subcommittee on digital assets. Not a joke. Ethics requirements. Aside from the fact this whole administration's, most of them anyways, omitted or didn't even sign their ethics pledges in the beginning. Not that that's like some kind of law-breaking thing, but the point was they all chose to ignore the reality of their ethics, which we can see on plain display as they all profiteer through the administration. It also means they could be working for foreign powers and we wouldn't know it, which is what one guy said in the beginning. Seems pretty much on the nose, doesn't it? But in this case, ethics pledges or ethics requirements for digital assets. History will remember, Senator Cynthia Loomis writes, this as the moment a president chose a higher standard of ethics. God, these people are so ridiculous. Than the law required of him. This agreement bans all federal officials, including the president, from issuing sponsoring digital assets. I mean, you all know where this is going. As even Twitter said, which is why they're going automated, President Trump and Melania literally launched their own coins. And it's more than just those two, guys. They had the rug pull on like 3 or 4 different kinds. World Liberty Financial, Trump, Melania. They're all rug pulls, guys. They're literally a fraction of what they started with. They made billions of dollars off of their own supporters. And so the point is, now they pass it, as somebody says down here. So he passes the law after he makes all of his money. Typical. That's the kind of people that they're all defending, right? Or the fact that national debt is now, as it says, Trump said he would eliminate the national debt when it stood at 19 trillion. Now it's over almost $40 trillion. And here's Caroline Leavitt saying Trump economy is doing better than the media wants to admit. I mean, it's people like Alex Jones and the rest that allow people not to see this, guys. Okay. You also have this alarming reality, which, by the way, is hard for many people to see this, even if they're seeing everything else, because you've been trained so aggressively to hate the other side. It's the same reason so many Democrats have a hard time seeing the bigger picture when it comes to being told what they think Trump supporters are, because the game is keeping you locked in on this illusory enemy that they've largely created anyway. I don't believe MAGA, that what they claim MAGA is represents most conservatives. I don't think what they claim Democrats are represents most liberals. I don't. I think you can easily prove that today. Look at COVID-19. Look at Israel. Look at what's happening right now in MAGA world, if you're actually paying attention. Most conservatives who I argue are the real MAGA, who want to make this country great again, who feel Trump didn't deliver, that's the majority, and they're calling him out. The ones still going MAGA who believe in Trump, and even though he didn't deliver, are the fake people. And there's still a lot of them. In this case, as you already saw, this is the article about it, the Trump administration's global campaign against radical left terrorism is built on a national security memo, which you know, 7, what is it, national NSPM 7. It marks a major conceptual shift in the U.S. counterterrorism policy, departing from approaches that primarily targeted foreign threats. Yeah, because you are the one focused on now. As the ICE point comes into play, we're talking about them turning this in and focusing on Americans, which has always been the case, if you understand, what we've been talking about over the years. Now, this has always been turning in. They've written documents about it. Now, and of course, radical left, some of them will think, good, go after Democrats until it's turned against you, just like happened recently. Like if you're on the other side of it, right, you're talking about go after the trucker convoy, get those Nazis, and then turns right around, and now the whole system is aimed at you. You already see that. Now, the Republicans, I'm sure you can piece it together. Next time a Democrat comes into play, or if you actually understand that it's the same either way, the system will be used against you too. And this is a post coming from State Department. Ken Klippenstein shared it. State Department officials call for a pre-crime approach to combat far-left terrorists to prevent plots before they happen. Direct quote. This shouldn't be news to you. Whitney's been talking about this her entire career. Myself, Derek, they have been pushing towards pre-crime since Trump's first administration. Long before that, in fact, Bill Barr was the one who brought it to fruition. Now we're on, technocratic levels, medical pre-crime. I just talked about the idea of what I believe leads into that. And that is that overlap with the new sort of gain of function direction that I believe is the, my opinion, by the way, make sure you check it out, be skeptical, but I'll include this as well. Trump's new gain of function, which is some sort of virus that infects bacteria and then causes some, it's insane, guys. And it's exactly, I went through peer-reviewed studies that make the same case. This is just as problematic as gain of function because it's the same idea. Just a slight deviation from the definition. And so my point is that becomes something that overlaps with a DARPA program that claims to be able to detect whether or not you've got some internal bio thing going on, and they'll lock you down before you can be a threat. That's real, guys. So it all comes to the same point, however they want to use it. So my point is, as Melanie says, this is looking as just locking up political enemies and violating their 4th, 5th, and 14th Amendment rights. That's what fascist governments do. The guys, they didn't commit the crime. If they haven't done anything yet, there's no way you can be okay with this. If you believe in what Trump claimed he was fighting for, the Constitution, American rights, liberty, free speech. Excuse me. Now, a couple other quick points in case you didn't see this. Cadaver dogs and drones. This is from April 2026. Records show scope of search at Zorro Ranch. Now, I wanted to quickly follow up on this because this is one of the other things that all of the ones that were screaming like them about Epstein files, who some seemingly don't care about that now, or I guess are now suddenly circling back around saying, did Trump lie to us? Maybe all of a sudden they'll start pointing it out, which is that this was done a long time ago, right? And it says FBI emails in the Epstein files released so far by the State Department that show federal investigators doubted there was evidence left at the ranch only weeks after Epstein's death. Quote, from the FBI, 2019, at this time, we don't believe there are items still located in the residence that would be of value to the investigation. Still, you know the English language. We know the evidence that came out. That's why they were there. This is Trump's administration at the time. That's because they got the evidence came through it went through, I believe it originally went to a right-wing media podcast or radio host. He then related to the government in New Mexico, and they had documented videos of abuse, and they had evidence of people that were buried. That got barely any attention. Now, it got called out then again in 2019 to look into it. Nothing happened. And they said that their items, they don't believe they're still there. So bringing it to today, well, guess what? The New Mexico government is still trying to investigate whether it's political or not. Trump and the team won't let them. Neither would Biden. But what I think is important is that Kash Patel and the rest want you to believe that they did this investigation and there's no evidence. There's nothing to look into. It's over. But if you're telling me that you knew they were once there and you've yet to actually follow up with the investigation, which means look for any residual evidence, which they have not done outside of New Mexico from a state level, then you know you're hiding something. And it says, but an unverified anonymous tip released as part of the federal document dump alleged the bodies of 2 girls were buried somewhere in the hills of Zorro Ranch. New Mexico Justice Department conducted a search of this property in April, and which a specialized canine unit that's trained in detecting human remains. The agency declined to comment on the outcome of the search and just called one component of the ongoing investigation. So as far as I can tell, there's allegations they found bodies, but that evidence I can't back up. And here is the follow-up on July 15th. Nearly 5 months after New Mexico Attorney General asked the State Department to unredact files tied to Epstein, Attorney General Raul Torres in New Mexico said federal officials are now making it clear they will not cooperate. I don't know how anybody can misunderstand this. And it says, Torres said the U.S. Attorney's Office for Southern District of New York, the office assigned to handling the Epstein files, told his office by phone that it will not support their investigation. In 2019, the federal prosecutors asked Torres' predecessor to pause his investigation into the ranch to avoid interfering with federal proceedings. Think about that. So in 2019, when they actually were sniffing around for bodies, they had them stop. Now it comes back around and they say, don't even do it. So the point is they never actually finished this investigation. Quote, I think it's a tragedy and a real stain on the Justice Department, not really when you understand what they're actually like, that it has gone on this long without real accountability for the crimes that occurred at Zorro Ranch. Just a quick little brief into there, guys. We already showed you this, but this is the situation we're in. Again, Trump will have you believe that we're in the golden age. What do you think?
Golden age of... So, ladies and gentlemen of Georgia, the golden age of America is upon us. We are in the golden age. This is the greatest we'll ever be. And together, with your help and the patriots all across this magnificent land, we love our country. We will make America powerful again. We will make...
You saw this already. The point is that, do you really think that this is the golden age? Is that what you think? I just don't know why anybody, I don't think anybody thinks that. Even the people who support him are still going, well, we'll get there. And as somebody's pointing out, 205th time we've entered the golden age since 2024. Brooke Jackson rightly points out, how many COVID criminals have been brought to justice? 0? Got it. What a shame that department keeps letting them go. I'll include Brooke Jackson's interview with TLAV. Oh, actually, here's the archive. That's perfect. We've had 4 interviews with her, I believe. Don't forget, TLAV was the very first platform to interview her live about her massive lawsuit against Ventavia and Pfizer. One of the many things that I think are worthy of praise for this platform that barely people acknowledge, sort of like the amazing Arna Burkhart interview that Taylor did, that we put a lot of time and resources into, that was just out, like pretty much, in my opinion, the absolute best piece of work, highlighting that focal point of the actual internal, from one of the leading cardiologists, it's a powerful piece. That if we were Tucker Carlson would probably change the world. That's how that works. Realize how artificial that tends to be. And again, that's nothing more than, as I keep pointing out, guys, demonstrating our value. If you go and look for yourself, you realize how powerful this stuff is. On this, Sam Tripoli writes, I see way more conservatives calling out Trump than I ever saw progressives calling out Obama, Clinton, Biden, or Biden combined. Now, who's to say if that's accurate? I don't know. I don't know how we could even find a way to prove those metrics. But I agree in a way. The point that I want to highlight is, even if it's not true, what I think this shows is that right now there's a huge effort to try to gaslight people into not seeing what's happening. And I mean, left and right, guys, they want you to believe that if every MAGA supports Trump and that's why they're so disgusting, or whatever the blind feeling is from the partisan other side. And then you got people on the other side who are being convinced to stay with Trump because, well, you're the only crazy one. Don't be a Democrat. And the truth is, if you're standing back beyond the partisanship, I agree with him. It's insane, this overflow. At the actual event with Derek, there was somebody who was talking about a support group for people leaving MAGA. And she was talking to me afterward about, she was just diehard, like the people I keep talking about. Flags in their trucks, going to protests, literally getting into fight. And now we're I wouldn't spit on Trump if he was burning. And it's saying everyone in his inner circle, everyone that they know is never again. Trump, not, and now I'm going to bet you most of them will vote for another Republican, probably go to Vance, but they see it right now. We need to capitalize on that. And this is what I think is, I think largely that was happening from Democrat side to probably a smaller degree during COVID. Hard to prove. I think this is obvious right now more than it's ever been. And you can even argue that the reason there's such an overwhelming obviousness of it is because of where we are. That I'd like to believe you would continue that awareness into the next Democrat or whatever else. But I agree. I just think we need to acknowledge that. Now, getting into the secret police side of this. And some of this stuff is just so incredibly unnerving, guys. Really kind of the stuff that sits with you. And this goes back long before ICE. In some of the cases we'll show you. But what I want to highlight here is that that we've had this problem, the police violence issue in this country has been on display for a really long time. And it's comparatively to other countries, let's just say Western country, it's just, you can't hide this. And the UK is going the same direction. And so what's important to see is that ICE has only just exacerbated that, has made it way worse. ICE and the rampant lawlessness that's been allowed by this administration has spun this out to something that is, I mean, I've never seen something like this, like in this country. I've never seen it get like this. And it's just this, like, I would say my argument would be this is not even all by design. Like, now you have random people from local police to, across the spectrum who are just acting with rampant lawlessness, because that's what this bleeds into our society. So this is the recent show we had. ICE has gone full-blown secret police. Now, here's a clip. First, to start with a couple of follow-ups from the last ones we discussed. This one is about Salgado Araro. Remember the claim? Remember the arguments? ICE claimed that he had drugs in his van. Well, the lab results came back, and guess what? That was false. So how many times can we go through this same cycle where they just brazenly lie, and their own documents, the court reveals that they lied to everybody? And then, well, in some cases, that person is still dead. In many cases, that person is still deported. In some cases, that person still lost whatever they took from them, or got, abused their rights, locked them up for a weekend, whether they're American citizen or not. I'm again of the belief that this is something that's almost impossible for people to ignore, but there's an artificial overlay to a lot of this that allows people to feel like you're the only one that sees it. I don't believe that.
Salgado, they said falsely that there were drugs in his van. This is a guy who got up every day for decades and busted his butt to provide for his family. And this administration lies and says he had drugs in his van. The DA yesterday told us he thought once the lab results came back, that lie would be disproven. We learned late last night, early this morning, the lab results are back. Right. No drugs in the car. It is disgusting what this administration is doing to families like this. Mr. Salgado.
Now, I mean, think about that. Like the idea, what he's saying is that they knew. So they didn't know for sure, right? But they thought because they were doubting them, because ICE keeps lying. And sure enough, I mean, this is the point, like with Iran and Trump. You could only have so many continuous, obvious lies in a row before the next one goes, okay, Trump's probably lying this time, just like every other time. But you should still go, but we can't know that for sure. But it's not illogical to look at the precedent, to use that to guide your choice, but we should never assume. So in this case, the point is, who's to say they're lying? But historically, ICE has been lying nearly ubiquitous. So we should probably go, they might be lying this time. And it turns out, guess what? They lied. And these are people, they're shooting people, guys. Innocent people, Americans and otherwise, arresting people who are here legally under the guise that somehow they got it from Biden, therefore it shouldn't be honored. It's what it's doing is creating an allowance that will be used in 1,000 different directions when they want to. And yeah, guys, it'll be aimed at you too. The moment that it needs to be, whether Republican or Democrat or aware of the illusion, that's what's coming. That's what's already here. Now, I'm going to include this for you. I'm not going to go into it in depth only because it's still, in my opinion, up in the air. This is the full video. And this is specifically of, what's his name again? It's right here. Shoot, hold on. I'm not going to go into the depths. I pulled down some of this stuff, but I'm going to come back to it. Are you serious? That's so stupid. Let's see. Corey Ruiz. Okay, so the point is that what we're talking about is an example, again, where somebody was basically attacked by the cops. And this is under whatever the allegation is. The argument is that they were trying to arrest him. He had a knife. That's the argument. And that's why he ended up getting shot 3 times in the head in point blank range, which I'm sure you've seen. What I want to argue is if you go through this and look for yourself, I mean, this one's the clearest that I've seen. I don't think this makes sense. I think what we can see in this, based on the logic, and I could easily be wrong because, I mean, this is still limited information. The argument everywhere you look is that he had a knife, that the cops yelled knife, that they claimed that they have a picture of it. Well, okay, remember what we're talking about here. These are people, like, whether police or ICE, we're in a very weird moment where it's just become kind of normal, which, by the way, again, if you actually been doing this, like for Free Thought Project, it's been normal your whole life, that the police will lie to suit their interests. And I'm going to make that case very clear today. Not everyone, never assume that. Some of them are good fighting for the right things. Like Derek talks about cops that actually leaked to him video of them investigating him back when he was simply just protesting, which was not a crime. And that's a cop that actually cared enough about his rights to be able to risk his career to send it to him. They exist, guys. less and less, I would argue, because they enforce on themselves. My point, though, is that based on what I can tell, the only evidence we really have is the allegation from them, the claim that it's there, and some fuzzy picture zoomed in of a knife on the ground that I can't see anywhere in the video. And then if you actually watch, my logic of this is, so what they're saying is that right about here, well, I mean, anyway, I'm not going to go through, they claim he had a knife and that this guy is holding his hand. But so what you can notice is that well before they yell the word knife, they have both of his hands locked. Right? And so either one of two things is the case. Either he somehow did have a knife, and I don't know how you pull a butcher knife like that out of your pocket. That's actually worth thinking about. But the point would be that they yell knife, but he's got his arm and he's got his other arm. So either he already dropped it, right? Or he didn't. At this point, what you can see is that he held his arm until ultimately he fell on the ground and they shot him 3 times in the head, point blank. And right there. And on top of that, the argument being that if the knife was on the ground, that this would, I mean, even arguably by even police are saying that that's not even justified based on the circumstances if he had it. You could make a debate about that. The point being, though, that this seems questionable that he even had one. And there are people out there saying it, but I'm not going to say that's the case because I don't know. But I think I'm going to make sure we follow up on this and we find out, because I'm sure it will come out. Because I'm looking right now, and and that was the last thing. Here's this picture of a knife. You want to show me where that is on this picture? And maybe it's behind his foot. I don't know. But that over there, that's not it. Those are sunglasses. From what I can tell, I don't see a knife on the ground. So who knows? I just wanted to include it. So make sure you guys check it out. We'll be probably following up on this, but I just want to include it because we recently talked about it. Now let's get into examples that are going to make you question whether they might be lying about that. And rightly so. First of all, just a small example that's still insane. I shouldn't even call it small, but it's not lethal. In this case, and this is ICE prevented a man from self-deporting on July 11th. And this is all documented. It's from court. So it's come out in court. He had a June 11th deadline. He asked ICE to let him leave and had a one-way plane ticket for June 10th. Then ICE re-detained him because he missed the deadline. Now here's the clarification from Aaron. He says the immigration judge grants him voluntary departure, saying he must leave by June 11th. Now the buys a plane ticket for June 10th. ICE asked to release him so he can board. ICE says no. Right? Okay, so he's held in detention. As he's in detention, they're telling him he has to voluntarily deport. He has the plane ticket for the 10th. They choose to hold him till the 11th. See what I'm saying? Then charge him with failed to deport. Or depart. It's all documented. So I want you to see the gross dishonesty within this administration, or rather just this with ICE in particular, is that you knew what you did was create the justification to charge him with a crime. Because if you're wanting him to voluntarily deport, that means he wasn't currently in violation of anything. He's somebody that is, like in many cases, somebody that is, like a visa's declined. Bottom line is that you made it happen to where you could make this escalated. You could have just let him leave, but you didn't. You chose to hold him until he violated the thing you could use against him. You ask yourself why. Again, that's a small example in the context of what we're talking about today, but that's choosing to create context illegally. Southwest flight attendant detained by ICE at Nashville International Airport. Flight attendant was detained by ICE earlier this month, according to agency and the union that represents the carrier flight attendants. Media representatives for the union, which represents more than 21,000 flight attendants, could not share more beyond the initial statement. Where was it? This was highlighted. Hold on. Shoot, well, I feel I don't want to have to parse through it right now. The point, again, was you're talking about somebody who was detained for, in an airport with no real process. And this is what I want to highlight in all this, is you have people that are showing up, airports seemingly pretty consistently right now. I think there's a reason for that. And grabbing people with no process, no identification, no warrants. And I'm going to make a bigger case about that today, about what I was worried about last time. So in this case, we talked about Holman saying, just comply, right? These people getting shot, just comply. What's the problem? Well, I'll tell you what the problem is. Women are getting raped by people pretending to be ICE. I've been calling this out since the beginning, and apparently that's not a big deal to all the people that want to pretend like they're fighting for Americans. You have American women, men being abused, robbed, shot because you are telling people to comply. So criminals go, perfect. I'll go buy a $5 ICE vest off of Amazon and then pretend that we are ICE. And people, and guess what, guys? Like I showed you last time at Las Vegas, they were dressed in white hoodies and black pants. They looked like a bunch of kids. And it turned out apparently they were ICE because ICE owned it and said they followed up and arrested them later. How do we know what that is? How do we not know that's not human trafficking, pretending to be ICE? On top of it, doesn't even matter because they're legally obligated to show you who they are, what their name is, what their badge number, to show you a warrant. Here's Holman being asked about the people that were shot and asked if he even knows what's going on with that as the person in charge of this part. And he doesn't have any idea, or he doesn't care to even answer.
Do you know specifically what happened to the officers involved in the Texas and Maine shootings? Have they been reassigned, placed on administrative leave? What's their status?
I don't know specifically. I haven't been involved with investigations, but it'd be policy that they be put on administrative leave during the shooting investigation. That's the policy of the agency.
They never are.
But you don't.
They usually get moved to another place, like Bovino and the rest.
As borders are involved in this, you don't know for sure if they have been?
No, ICE has an acting director, Dave Venturella, and they report to Mark Wayne Munn, the secretary. I've said from day one I won't comment on investigation, but I can tell you, I haven't specifically tracked these cases, but I can tell you per policy.
Yeah, they don't care. Right. Killing Americans, they don't care.
Put on administrative leave pending the investigation, pending, sworn statements, internal affairs interviews.
Does anybody even believe for a second that this guy would be honest with you? That if it came down to something that he knew was a problem for Trump, that he would just go, yeah, Trump did that. I mean, really ask yourself that. And I don't think anybody who's being honest with themselves is going to pretend like Holman would not brazenly, or any of them would not choose to lie to your face, even if it was against American interest, because it would hurt Trump. We've all seen that already. And it's not different than previous governments, left and right. It's just acknowledge it now. These people have been chosen because they hold the line. And people that don't get pushed aside. You all know that. You've all seen it. So as Tennessee Holler says, a lawless authoritarian goon squad whose only directive is racial profiling. Now, I don't believe it's only racial profiling, but I believe that's a huge driving factor because that's what they've been told to do, which is a crime in and of itself. But here's the point again. Another example, right? So here's a woman who is screaming in an airport for someone to help them because who knows? Maybe these are a bunch of random human traffickers arresting a woman claiming to be ICE because they're not identifying themselves. They don't have any identification. Like last time, what they did when people came around, they got up and walked away, left their handcuffs hanging from one of the guy's wrists. I mean, just from a policy standpoint, nothing. Guys, these people, rampant lawlessness.
You're choking me! You fucking choking me!
And there's some cursing. Heads up.
Please help me! Please somebody! No! Leave me alone! Guys, please!
What are they arresting you for?
Can you please help me? No, they're fucking ICE. I'm from Ukraine. Please, somebody. You're fucking choking me. You're fucking choking me.
She said she's from Ukraine. And of course, maybe that's the case. Maybe she's an illegal alien and they're arresting her because she's to be deported. That's not the point here. There are valid actions within immigration enforcement. The point is that how do we know as individuals?
You gotta stop. Stop. Let me go.
How would you even know that for sure?
Let me go.
Because they're not doing what's legally required of them. And all that does is create a background where people just try and open the door for goons and thieves. And I'm not even talking about the ICE one. I'm talking about others who could use that to steal, rob, rape, to commit fraud. And it's all happening. And that this administration could not care less.
Stop for a second. Can you just talk to me for a second? So we're undercover. Can you stop for a second?
It's ICE.
Oh, yeah, it's ICE. Yeah, it's ICE. We just gotta let him finish. I guess we'll assume that. That's where we are. Now, if it doesn't matter to you that they're breaking the law with what they're doing, then what are we even talking about? So why wouldn't they just walk up and break your leg and take you at the same time? Because why not, right? If they're breaking the law, they're breaking the law. Does it matter to you if they're at the end of the day, guys, they're required to do these things and they're not, which opens the door for abuse. I don't even understand why anybody who's not a dishonest player is advocating for this, supporting any of this, other than the ones that just don't know what's happening because they're choosing to ignore it. As Jesus freaking Congress points out, the Ukrainian woman being physically restrained, plain clothes. In a video, she's terrified, begging them to talk to her, begging the people around her to help her. And we're all just expected to believe that they're ICE. Even though they aren't clearly identifying themselves, they aren't explaining what's happening, they aren't showing any proof. They're just men in plain clothes trying to physically take a terrified woman. How is that not insane to people? And the Republicans who support this, and by the way, it's not just Republicans, by the way, it's not, you could, outside the paradigm, there are people who support this for any number of reasons. But there are people who support this, or the same people who spent weeks exploiting the murder of other, well, in any case, like Elon Musk, for example, who will exploit examples where things like this are happening in the context that they want to call it out, but then explain and say this is okay. This is what I think is really important. And this is another report. I've shown you so many of these, it pains me. Men posed as ICE agents and detained and assaulted a woman. I said it's insane to me how little attention this gets. Not at all the first example. I've pointed this out many times since ICE tyranny began. The only reason this is possible is because ICE is being allowed to violate your rights, its own policies, and the law. It's as simple as that.
At 11, a warning from state police and the FBI after a group of men posing as ICE agents, they say, pulled over a driver in Clackamas County, detained, and then assaulted them. Catherine Cook spoke with community members. And Catherine, it sounds like this might not be the first time.
No, David, and they fear this will keep happening as long as actual ICE agents conceal their identities and refuse to show warrants and other arrest documentation.
On this dusty stretch of
Now, what's interesting to me is right there, you're going to get people from a, aggressive partisan mindset who just don't realize why they're being played, who are going to jump in and go, that Democrats trying to convince you we have to stop. Well, look, it doesn't even matter. Let's just even say you're right. Does it not matter to that individual speaking directly to you that they're breaking the law to do this? If your argument is, well, they have to because Democrats might X, Y, and Z, you've already lost. The Democrats who are doing X, Y, and Z, arrest them, call them out. They're the ones breaking the law if they're doing that. And if you're doing the thing you're doing to circumvent it, then you are too. The answer is never to break the law in response, guys. That's the excuse they give you. And usually when you look back, there wasn't even a crime to begin with that justified them breaking the law. They use it. It's sort of like the FBI who will leak things to the news for the news to say, then they point to the news saying it as justification to continue their investigation. Look it up. It happens all the time. And it's just a cycle of nonsense. And they use you, guys. Stop falling for it.
Highway 211, east of Woodburn, 3 men allegedly posing as ICE agents pulled someone over and assaulted them. This, according to Oregon State Police and the FBI. They say it happened the afternoon of July 17th. Investigators say the men were driving a blue or gray SUV with no license plates that had flashing red and blue lights. The men wore green shirts, face coverings, and tactical vests labeled police, and one of them had a rifle. After pulling the victim over.
Like, just already think about that. Think about how insane that is, right? Broad day bandits in the middle of nowhere, just like pulling you over in the street, acting like they're police officers. And even police officers I've shown you examples of have fallen for this because they're being told to be completely reverent to, ICE says that they get to do that. I mean, think about what will overlap. Like, think about the larger sense. Think about like international espionage and the idea of abusing this to be able to come in and grab whoever you want. Human trafficking. I mean, it's almost as if the group covering up the Epstein files have created a situation where exactly that, what's ripe for abuse for that, is now being blown open. Welcome, international human trafficking groups. Or come in and grab whoever you want, pretend you're ICE, and nobody will even say a word about it because they're covering up for their own agendas.
Police say the men forced them out of their car, searched them, held them in their SUV, and assaulted them before finally letting them go.
This is the kind of attacks that we were afraid would actually happen. We know that when ICE roams the streets without any kind of identification, any kind of accountability, that's the message you're sending to people, that this kind of stuff is okay.
Rena Lopez is president of PECUN, Oregon's farm worker union. She says community members have spoken of similar incidents involving ICE impersonators. She's grateful police are investigating this case and alerting the public.
And anyone.
And they're getting pushback, guys. Even like a local entity trying to look into this, like from a top-down federal point, they're covering for themselves. And that includes trying to hide that this byproduct is happening, which they've been doing. which means they could care less that Americans are suffering because of their agenda, which in fact is actually making Americans suffer.
Can put on a mask and refuse to identify themselves and claim that they're ICE. And these types of incidents are only going to intensify if they are approached by someone who claims to be an ICE agent. Remember that you have rights.
In Woodburn, community members like Luke.
But you see, this is the problem, right? Is that then ICE agents right now don't care. And there's no mechanism through our government that cares to follow up, who cares to hold them accountable for not caring about your rights, which means the administration from the top down doesn't care about your rights, which, by the way, you should have seen a long time ago, Luke and anybody else. Same with Biden, same with any of the rest of them. It's just important to see that, right? So the point I'm making is that, yes, this is the case. You do have rights and you should stand up for them. Just be aware that there's risk there. Act accordingly. Make your choices accordingly. Whatever you think that is. Like, I guess, for example, on a larger note, more broad, I keep seeing examples where people are, like if you're about to be arrested in a normal sense, like, again, I don't even want to say this since who knows if maybe, like if you have a normal context where you have police going, here's my identification, I want to arrest you. The last thing anybody should do is start struggling. Unless you believe that there's some kind of an unjust situation or that you're being human trafficked, they're lying. My point is that we know today, I hate even saying that because in many cases, there's a reasonable place to do that. Even when it's police understand if you're in the wrong. Kicking in your front door, for example, and they're in your home. The courts have ruled roundly with that. My point is that today they don't care. That if you do that, they'll use force against you, even if they know they're wrong. So I'm just saying, take that into consideration. Because a lot of these cases we see end up going to that level because they know they've got the rights to resist, but then ultimately they get killed in the street. And so the point would be is if ultimately you get taken to jail, you could potentially make a case against them unjustly, violating your rights, for example. But make your own decisions, guys. That's how this has to go. Understand where we are. Make your decisions accordingly.
Luis want their neighbors to remain calm and informed.
A estar alertas, a estar pendientes.
He said, stay alert and look for exact information and stay respectful of the laws. We have the right to remain silent. Organizations like Portland Immigrant Rights Coalition send volunteers to authenticate ICE activity for those who call their hotline.
Now, realize on that same point he made, like, look, if you want one piece of advice that I'll always stand by, don't answer. Be silent, like he just said. I mean, you look up on YouTube the millions of the lawyers that will tell you, ex-police officers that will tell you one golden rule: never answer questions for cops. Never. You have every right to stay quiet. They'll literally tell you that. And then act like that right is why they think you're guilty, because these are criminals. The point is, get a lawyer. They'll use everything they can against you in that moment. And I have videos I'm going to show you right now that will go over that. And it's not about being disrespectful, guys. It is your right. For them to pretend that it makes you look guilty, they're abusing your rights. Choose to be quiet because you know that anything can be used again. They'll literally, Miranda rights will tell you that, and then they'll go on to make you feel guilty for doing that. Stay silent.
In a statement to KGW, Perk condemned the incident and said the victim's family reached out to them last week. Quote, the reality is there is very little visible difference between ICE kidnapping someone and armed criminals kidnapping someone. ICE is deliberately exploiting a legal gray zone where people aren't sure if they can call 911 to report violent traffic assaults from unmarked people acting like police.
My advice on that, if you see this happening and you don't know for sure they're ICE, call the police. Not that that's likely even going to do anything, but complicate their situation. Call the police. Hopefully they get there while something's happening and say, these people are trying to kidnap that person. And they'll probably go, I'm ICE, and then at least that then gets cleared up, right? Make sure you know that. But even then, I'm kind of making a point right there. The last thing I ever want to do, if I'm going to be real honest, is involve the authorities. Just going to be real. That's, I think, almost in any circumstance. But again, I don't even like to get into stuff like that because you don't just follow do what you think is right. I will make my decisions in the moment that may be different than what I would, we all have to guide ourselves based on what we think is right for us in the moment, based on our principles and our integrity. I'm saying the point I'm saying that for is to realize that doing so might actually allow some accountability because some of these people in local police are actually good people. But again, if I'm in that situation, the last thing I'm going to do is call the police. I just don't believe that that's going to help you, but I digress.
This is a human rights issue endangering all Oregonians.
Police say if you're unsure whether a traffic stop is legitimate, consider stopping in a well-lit area or a spot where there are several people present.
Right. Yeah. And this is the point I make all the time about on the highway, right? This is the law. And you can look it up. If you're driving and you feel unsafe, the law says you can find a spot you feel safe. Even if they're flashing their lights and there are 45 cars behind you, if you don't feel safe and you can find a place that does. Now they'll try to argue that you drive for 20 miles. Maybe they'll make a case out of that. The point though is that in this case today, if you drive, let's just say 2 more minutes to somewhere that's lit, we all know they will charge you with evading arrest. The law doesn't matter to these people, guys. In fact, most of them don't even understand the law, police or otherwise. And that's what I want to get into next, because this is insane. The level of local police that are at the point. I mean, just take one clear example that's consistent today, arguing that, you know what? We just pulled you over because we want to make sure you're okay. Or you have you look suspicious. Oh, by the way, step out of the car. We want to talk to you. No, I don't want to get out of the car. Well, guess what? You have to, or it's obstruction. Whoa, wait a minute. What am I being charged with? No, we're just making sure you're okay. Well, how is it turned suddenly where I'm required? It's not. They're breaking the law and they don't care. Or there's some new policy or some new memorandum. This is what we see today that argues, well, for your safety, your constitutional rights are all that matter. And the reality is they're not able to say you have to get out of the car unless you're charging me with a crime and detaining me for that crime. That's the reality. But these people don't care about that. What I would argue is more alarming, they don't even know. They've been told by the administrations that want them to think they can do this, that everything is okay because we'll support you. And guess what? They will. So keeping that in mind, the idea that you're seeing women raped. Now, look, the disgusting part of this is they say she was assaulted. I think we can all deduce what we're talking about here. A couple of men pulled over some women on the highway and then raped her in the car, and then she went to the police. What's going to happen now? How do they even find these people? All the rape kits that are lining all these police officers as they go after people for cannabis. Look it up. It's just insane, the reality of the world they've created where they enforce on us for anything and they actually don't accomplish anything. And so, I mean, I shouldn't even make it that broad. It's just by and large reality, guys. That's where we are. As they focus on nonviolent crime and they focus on hate speech, it's where this world is going. And it's something we need to fight. And this is what they're posting. White House, got a tip? Call it in now. Deportation maxing. They're literally on some kind of meme social campaign and they don't even realize they're failing. Or maybe they do and they don't care. And by the way, using pictures from CCOT. Yeah. Let's bring in they don't even care, guys. In fact, this might not even be them doing this. This feels like an engineered thing to destroy this country. Bottom line is they're not even doing this to the level that team sport Republicans want. So it's all flash, no substance. But yeah, everyone sees you're breaking the law, so let's double down. Like this. I mean, so you say deportation maxing. At least you can argue, well, that's what they want, right? Lethality maxing. And it goes, yes, 2 X's. It's like you have, like I said, it's like Kash Patel and Bongino and Trump making memes and they think they're, it's like the 50-something white ad execs who are in this room going, oh, that's so hip. That's what all the kids are going to love. And we just laugh at them because they're so out of touch. I mean, are you serious? Lethality maxing? I mean, what you're doing is murdering children, bombing civilian locations, and openly saying that and then just doubling down. I mean, there is a tactic for this. To push this almost to make it feel like it's not real. I don't even understand. And my point is just checking it's not a parody account. Nope. Yep. That's them. Yikes. That's insane levels, guys. That's sociopathic levels. That's what we're dealing with. Now, Joe Walsh, again, very partisan, somebody who I disagree with on tons of things, not about part of his stance on, it's about what he says here, which I agree with. ICE is expanding, which is true, by the way, random door-to-door searches. This is what I'm talking about, whether it's cars or anything else. They have their own things, not law, not constitutional right, that say they're allowed to do this if they argue there's an immigrant. An ICE warrant, not judicial warrant, that they sign for themselves. They say they can kick in your door if they believe there's an immigrant in there. And they'll do it just to make sure. I've already proven this to you. And they already got called out for why that wasn't justified. They've done it since. They don't care. And now there's no follow-up. Without your consent, a valid judicial warrant, or a genuine emergency, they do not have the right to enter. You don't have to answer the door or their questions. I agree. The point is, this is changing. They're creating a situation where they are now allowing themselves to violate American rights. By the way, the same rights that illegal aliens have, the same rights that U.S. green card holders and visa holders have. And if you still don't know that, who the hell are you listening to? Here's an example of just a random gas station situation where people are filming ICE and the way that they belligerently react because people dare to film them, which is within their rights. Now, again, I don't care if you find it disrespectful. I don't care if you find it to be invasive. They're not breaking the law if you're filming in a public location. Even this game of you're obstructing, or you're impeding. Well, guess what? If they're in fact doing something and you're getting in their way, you could make that case. Standing there filming them and them saying, back up, and then you not backing up far enough, it's not impeding. And you all know this. It's a game of partisanship, and recognize it's about them against Americans, not just the Democrats you don't like. If you actually believe that, you're the child in the room. It's aimed at anybody who they don't agree with. Even that right there. Okay, look at that. Right there. Okay, you're talking about a guy who's standing close, right? The cop is standing there. There's multiple people with cameras. And the guy just walks up and pushes him. What justification? Why are you laying your hands on me? You are the one that initiated that. By the way, just like Preddy. Remember that? When he walked up and tried to engage with him, and he's the one that pushed him, sprayed him, he slipped, they fell, and it all happened from there. And they still lie about that. They called him a terrorist, guys. Okay, he pushes his hand away. Well, you're reaching out and pushing me. Just because you're an ICE officer doesn't mean you have the legal right to assault me for no justification. He wasn't breaking the law. So the guy pushed his hand away, and he didn't like that because he's a child. And so he assaults him back. Or not back, but rushes at him and attacks him. Because this guy's so insecure, you're not allowed to respect my authority. That's what we're dealing with, guys. There's no confusing that. He ran up on him because he gave him the wrong look. That's what it is. And then, did you hear them? Those are the ICE officers. Get him! Get him! We're talking these are a gang, guys. They're a bunch of, incompetent, uninformed, uneducated. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, they didn't go through the proper training. Not untrained. Well, I guess untrained, but that's the real point, is that they grabbed whoever they could because people, they just kind of, what was it? Like weeks long process. They skipped multiple things. They lied to them about what was actually illegal. They gave them this weird memorandum and said, go by that, even though it violated their own policies. We covered all of this. What's happening? Get him for what? Why did you 7 people tackle him to the ground because you pushed him and he dared to say don't do that and pushed your hand away? And does that look like police? Or does that look like the military? Because this is the military, guys. This is the military on U.S. soil enforcing U.S. law. You know what? That used to be a crime. Weird, huh?
I know.
My God. I believe, and I think I've been proven correct, that most conservatives support this. Not even for immigration, guys. This has gone so far beyond what anybody wanted. And this is the same thing I say about, like, take Iran, for example, or any other location where they come in and go, Iran has clear issues with their government, and some of them do anyway, and they're protesting, and you get outside forces that go, we want to fight for your freedom and save you, and all they do is destroy their own country and then bomb those same people. It's the same idea. People want, let's just say, immigration. They wanted the illegal immigrants to be removed because, yes, there was an abuse of that through Biden and Republican administrations to set this up for the problem reaction solution. Nonetheless, they said, get rid of the illegal aliens. They did not say, bring me a police state that ruins our constitution. That's the point. And I think most conservatives realize that. You get the Jack Posobics and Benny Johnsons that go, rah, rah, yay, America, and yell for this kind of stuff as it's unconstitutional and quintessentially un-American.
Nobody did. I'm not resisting. Cowards are here. I'm not resisting. I'm not doing shit.
Nice thing into a black apartment complex, and just in that block neighborhood with literally all black people in the area, and in the video rather, and there's water on the top.
That's what you want?
And there's so many.
Give us the contact. Give us the photo.
Even if it's probably not orange.
Victor 3, okay? I'm going to Victor 3. That's what they said. Victor 3. Get up. him a good pat down once you get him up. Give him a good pat down.
Now, what I believe this amounts to, guys, I get to know these people because they're filming them. And they cheat that. Even though it's the right, they literally he went up the side because he's probably been filming them from 2 different locations. And he just hates the fact he's doing it. And you know what? They're probably disrespectful. They're probably calling him names. But you know what? That is your right as an American. And those who want to pretend otherwise are the ones fighting against American interests. That's the gist of this guy. Unmarked van. And again, this is not even just about ICE. It's about what is bleeding into the enforcement arm all across this country. And like I said in the title, not even remotely new, guys. This has been a building problem that has only been wildly thrown in, like it has spun out entirely because of what they've allowed in this administration. So speaking of police, isn't it interesting? So there's plenty more we can go into just ICE. We just talked about this, and sure enough, there has been a follow-up on this. And I'll just give you the link. Here's the link. You can read more about it. But as we showed you the clip for, this woman lost her mind, and is exactly what I thought. Now, this is the hard example for most because it really does put to the test your principle, which was, it turns out there were cops that were shot, like right around this area. That's the story. Apparently there was a cop that was shot, and it turns out the guy was like right next to where these 2 electricians were. If you remember the story, there was 2 electricians, and these cops came up and just they threw them, they had them arrested, screamed their faces, and they were just a couple of bystanders. So the point becomes the same. It shouldn't matter whatever you fill in the blank with. Cops were shot. They were somebody jaywalking. It doesn't change the fact that your rights are unalienable. They don't get to come up and go, well, danger, my security, and just suddenly ignore your rights. But that is where we are today. But the point was that they were either afraid or whatever because they were worried. But these people were sitting down. They were calm, and they screamed in his face. They threw him. You saw the video. Confusing orders, get on your back, stay on your front. And in some cases, people get shot because they don't listen, because they don't hear, they're getting conflicting direction. Now, the bottom line is, even in a case where there's police being shot and they have a right to be concerned, we don't know what's going on. We don't know who could be maybe you're one of the people that shot him, right? Like that's what they're going to argue. It still does not change. There's no world in which they get to just violate your rights because they are concerned, because they're in danger. If you disagree with that, then make the argument that you believe in limited rights. I make this case in every conversation we have. And maybe you're right. I disagree, but maybe you're right that we're in a different place in the world and we can't rely. Then make the argument. Stop pretending you believe in unalienable rights. Stop pretending you believe in the Constitution if you're okay with this kind of thing, no matter how extreme their justification was. They get into some of these really alarming examples. Now, we're going to get into some that are recent, most of them, and a couple to overlap it with that are from 2022, 2018, to show you that this is not new. But right now, guys, there's this whole thing about you're obstructing if you don't get out of the car, even though I pulled you over for no justifiable reason. That is not the case, guys. And if this happens to you, hopefully you can win some money because this is unjustifiably unconstitutional, but maybe we're at a place where that's not even possible either. Nonetheless, this is wrong. This is illegal. And what they did here deserves to be called out.
Township Police, gotta let you know I'm recording, all right?
What was the reason for stopping me?
When we drove by in the Muse, we just saw you. I was a little concerned. It looked like you were reaching down, just like hiding your face. We came by. You're wearing a sweatshirt in 80-degree weather. You got the handicap placard up. There's people that complain in the Muse about people parking in handicap spots.
Was I parked in a handicap spot?
I'm just saying. I was wondering if you have any documentation for that. I'm telling you everything.
Okay, so that was everything, which you'll find. He continues. So you're wearing a sweatshirt. And look, let's just even say he's doing something illegal. It doesn't change the fact that you have literally no legal justification to pull somebody over for that kind of suspicion. That's not probable cause. You're wearing a sweatshirt. You were ducking in your car. You're in your own car, wearing your own clothes. And as it turns out, leaving his apartment complex, which is what it was. And because we have suspicion, and I'm sure people, and rightly so, I would probably agree, it's because of his skin color. But either way, it doesn't even matter. White, black, purple, it doesn't matter. You have rights, and these people pulled him over because they decided they have suspicion. That's it. And now, let me see your documentation for that handicap. What do you mean? Am I being detained or not? Right? Am I breaking? Are you charging me with a crime? If you don't understand your rights, it will be abused by people like this. And the problem is that I don't think this guy understands the rights, because what's going to happen is getting dragged out of your car because you decline to come out of your car to answer more questions about something that was an unjust stop.
My handicap sticker is illegal.
No, I'm only reason I'm asking that is if you have any documentation.
So what was the reason for stopping me again?
When I was patrolling through the Mews, as soon as we went by you, you reached down, like hid your face from us. This is more just saying that if everything's all right with you, if you're all good, if everything's fine, we'll have.
Oh, good. We're just making sure you're okay. I'm good. Goodbye.
Have you right on your way, okay?
I want both of your badge numbers.
Understood. Can I get your insurance and registration?
At this point, why?
So you're conducting a traffic stop because you're trying to say I look suspicious.
Now, look, you obviously, like, for example, not giving your information, which he's under no legal responsibility to do so. You did not have any legal right to stop me in the first place. You have no legal right to see my ID, my insurance. What am I being stopped for? Oh, just to be sure, I'm good then. I'm good. Let's move along, right? That when he started to engage is what opened the door, not literally, but opened the metaphorical door, theoretical door for what happens next. And it's not his fault because they're abusing their power, but understand your rights, guys.
And when you were patrolling through where I live.
Yeah.
Correct?
Is that where you live?
Correct, right?
You live in the Mews? Do you live there?
Yes.
Okay.
So you're trying to say I look suspicious walking out of my own apartment. Why? Because I'm black.
Whether or not he actually is hiding something doesn't make it. It's irrelevant, guys. It is irrelevant because they did not have justification to do it in the first place. Now, just be, if you're on the side of the police in this case, then you are okay with them deciding you're a criminal, whether or not they have any evidence, and then going out of their way, even if it breaks the law and violates your rights, to find out. And in the process of trying to find out, they might just break your arm or shoot you, or, we'll figure it all out in the end. And if you're okay with that, then make your argument the proper way and say that you don't believe in the Constitution.
In this 80-degree weather,
walking out of your apartment.
I was walking. I want to speak to your supervisor right now. Call your supervisor.
No problem.
Call your supervisor.
So we can talk to you back.
No,
I'm
not.
Okay, just so you didn't hear that. Can you step out of the car so we can talk about this? You're not under arrest. You're not. Okay, so right there, the fact that this then goes to them forcing him out of the car means that they don't understand the law, or they know they're breaking it.
Stepping out of my car. No, I don't have to get out of my. I know my rights, bro. I know my rights. You're profiling me. You're racially profiling. Yes, you are. When your supervisor gets here, I will get out the car.
All right. Well, listen.
And I'm calling Mass Finardi next. And I'm gonna speak to your chief.
Okay. Well, listen up. He's asking you politely to
listen. Call your supervisor, and I will speak to your supervisor. Thank you.
Sir, if you don't
call your supervisor, and I will speak to your supervisor.
You realize if you don't step out, you're going to get arrested for obstruction.
If you don't step out, you're going to get arrested for obstruction. So recap: they pull you over to make sure you're okay, right? That's what he said. You're not under arrest. He just said that. And now, if you don't step out of the car, you're going to be charged with a crime of what are you obstructing? An investigation of what? You see this broken circle of logic, and this is the creation of your authority, of your false authority, of the enforcement arm of the empire, that they decide we think you might be doing something, and maybe we just want to figure it out, but we're going to then have the right to violate your constitutional rights, illegal search and seizure, even just a general human right of free movement. We're going to stop it all because we want to find out. So step out of the car. And if you don't, now you're breaking the law, even though we started when you weren't breaking the law and we just want to make sure you're okay. This is gross abuse.
He's asking you to step out of the car.
You're conducting a traffic stop. Okay.
You're all worked up.
No. Call your supervisor right now, please. No, call your supervisor.
We can just talk behind.
Call your supervisor.
If you don't step out, you're going to get locked up for obstruction.
I'm not going to get locked up. I know my right to stop.
Your rights. You know the driver's got to get out if the officer asks you to get out.
For what? Oh, I asked you for a supervisor before you asked me to get out the car. By law, you're supposed to call your supervisor when I ask.
Have him get out, and then
I don't have to get out the car.
Sir, you got to step out of the vehicle.
Call your supervisor.
Sir, you have to come out.
Call your call your supervisor. Bro, now you just broke my fucking door handle, bro.
Arrest for obstruction, sir. Come on.
Now you just broke my door handle.
Step out of the vehicle.
Where's your supervisor?
Step out of the vehicle, sir.
Bro, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
Step out of the vehicle.
Yo, why are you grabbing me, bro? Why are you ripping my papers?
You're under arrest.
Why? Bro, I didn't even do anything.
Yep. Welcome to America. Right? Well, welcome to the land of the free, we're told. Bothers me. Right? And so this new example, I'll do my best to follow up with more detail. But again, like I said, it literally doesn't matter at this point because what they said proves to you that they know or they don't know, which is even more alarming, that they're violating his rights. Here's another example you might have seen, and we'll follow up with the actual report about what happened. A police officer, angry after letting the guy go, we'll read through it, in fact, pulls up to a guy at a gas station who's pumping gas and fires his taser at him and lights him on fire. Here's how this went down.
The cops and you're going to go to jail. All I'm asking for is your license right now to identify. What am I being arrested for? You are not cooperating for having committed a crime. What? A misdemeanor? A misdemeanor, asshole. It's a $10.
This intense encounter with a federal officer turns dangerous for the man behind the camera. I'm Fox 10 investigator Justin Lum. Let's run it back.
Two set of cops and you're going to go to jail. All I'm asking for is your license right now to identify. What am I being arrested for? You are not cooperating for having committed a
These wildlife, fish and wildlife.
What? A misdemeanor? A misdemeanor, asshole. It's a $10.
And he shot him after he called him a name. There's no confusing that, right? So what was the justification? Well, he insulted me. So you're a child then who abuses authority when you feel shamed, right? Yeah, that's what happened. Now, there's a very clear policy about when they're supposed to use these, both with a threat, which I'll read next, or even very clearly, regardless of what's happening. If there's ever because of the potential for flame issue, that's a violation of the policy regardless. It's all very easy looked up. So he didn't care. He abused it all because he felt angry. Now, what would allow him to do that? Human beings can make mistakes, but why is it seeming so rampantly common right now? Because it's subconsciously aware that people everywhere can take advantage. Well, there's a problem because Democrats or whatever they tell themselves, they are of the mind that they can do this. We all see it.
Clarence Coyle says he was headed to Catfish Paradise at the Havasu National Wildlife Refuge, where a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service officer was there telling him that he was trespassing. So Clarence turned around, and about 20 minutes or so later, he's confronted by that same officer for his ID at a gas station. We checked out his uniform and verified that he works for U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. His uniform reads P. Nielsen. Now, federal policy strictly warns fish and wildlife officers to not use electronic control devices in specific situations, including when the subject is near flammable materials. The service tells me the taser deployment is currently under review, which is policy, and they cannot comment further. Watch our full report on Fox10Phoenix.com.
So here is the actual article. Same one he was pointing to right there. So same general point, though. And it says, you're going to go to jail if you don't. I mean, same point, though, right? I need your identification. Okay, but in this case, there's a minor misdemeanor. So basically, he drove into this location, not choosing, drove in. The cop goes, "Oh, you're not supposed to be in here. You're trespassing or whatever." And he goes, "Oh," and turns around and leaves. And that's becomes the issue. So it says, the guy says, "You're going to go to jail. I'm asking for your license right now. What am I being arrested for?" He's you're cooperating. You're not cooperating for having committed a crime. Coral says he and his friends drove through an open gate, approaching Catfish Paradise at the Havasu National Wildlife Refuge when we noticed an officer. He goes, "You guys came through the gate, didn't you? Leave now, get out of here." He says, "Okay." And he says he got real snotty and he says, "Well, I'll give you a ticket." Now, who knows? Maybe he was rude. That doesn't justify cops abusing their power. I don't care what you want to say. You can cuss in his face. Isn't that free speech? Same people who want to tell you about that will then tell you F around. Like, at the end of the day, F around and find out applies to certain circumstances with people in authority. That's not how that works, guys. Sure, you could argue they got what they deserved, but they also broke the law to do it. But that's not how that usually goes. But it says, "Give me a ticket. You got to trespass me first." Right? Meaning that the guy has to be arrested, the whole thing, right? So it says Coral turned around and drove to the gas station. So there's a dispute right there, I would argue, about whether he was demanded to leave. It doesn't appear that way, right? And so at the end of the day, he gets to the gas station. As you saw, the cop pulls up and pulls his taser. But why would that even be the case? Why wouldn't you walk up and be like, the end of the day, guys, even if the guy drove away, that is unjustified obviously even two policy reasons. Well, continuing, it says, and I spend 5.5 hours there, not a single officer or anything followed. So it says, so after he went to the hospital, because he caught on fire, it said he spent 5.5 hours there. Not a single officer or anyone followed or right to report, to question, or anything. So they just ignored the whole thing. So he follows him up because he broke the law, lights him on fire accidentally with a taser, and then there's no report filed. Nobody follows up and said, what about the crime you said he committed? Right, Nielsen? And it says nobody showed up at the hospital at all for any of it. The name on his uniform is P. Nielsen. The department policy for electric control says that if there's, unless there's a clearly to articulate a compelled reason to do so, like shooting the taser, an officer should not use those when they can result in direct or secondary injuries. There's no justifiable reason to use that right there in any context, let alone whether it's next to a flammable location. So he chose to use this because he was irritated. This is where we are, guys. And he's fishing wildlife. The abuse of power is rampant right now. That was July 23. Here's an example of a random kid. And this is one from before. Okay. This is an older story. And this is not necessarily any different than what we see right now. It's angry people who want to abuse their power, but now it's been given a go-ahead, a green light across the board, it feels like. 20-year-old lost his bike, asked a cop for directions. Wasn't sure where he was going, walked into another place to ask for directions, and apparently the cop was insulted by that. Here's how it goes.
Hey, what are you doing, man?
I'm just looking for my way back to the crib. You trying to get directions to H&M?
It's a little bit bad audio. He just, what are you doing, man? He goes, I'm just trying to get my way, find my way.
I told you where it's at about 2 minutes.
He said, I told you where it was 2 minutes ago. So the point is that he's, lost. He's in a place he's not familiar with. I mean, literally, I've done this before, where you ask somebody for directions, and then either you forget it because you think of something, or whatever, or you realize it didn't make sense, whatever it is, then you go ask somebody else, maybe just to confirm it. Like, is that the right direction? I mean, who cares even? Why would it matter, right? But he says, "Did I just tell you that?" And the kid says, "That was you." Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, who the fuck else was it?
I'm sorry. I know you're the cop.
I told you where I was there.
See, who else was it? The cop is clearly angry for some unknown reason.
Right?
Yeah.
So why are you in here asking the same thing?
I'm not for sure where I'm going.
I told you where to go.
All right, thank you.
Is that accurate or no?
Yeah.
So why are you in here?
I was just making sure.
Making sure I did the right thing?
Okay, so right here, the guy's trying to leave. Okay, fine. Thank you. I'm out of your way. So what in the world would you argue justifies a cop in this situation to aggressively stop somebody? Suspicion? Not enough.
I'm not for sure where I'm going.
I told you where to go, right?
Yeah.
So why are you in here?
All right, sorry.
No. Why are you in here?
I told you I wasn't for sure where I'm going.
All right.
You said going on Goldie, right? All right, thank you.
No, I didn't. Hold tight.
All right, thank you.
Come here, guy. Come here.
What are you be detaining him for, guys? There's no legal justification for that. Cops just can't stand in large cases, in my experience, in most cases, that you don't just follow blindly. If you were doing this properly, what am I detained for? Then I'm leaving. Unless you're charging me, I'm leaving. You have no right to charge me with anything for asking directions after you told me. Guess what he does? The kid tries to leave.
Whoa. What are you doing, man?
Why do you touch me like that? Whoa.
He charged him with resisting arrest.
What the fuck? I'm always like that. What the fuck was your problem? What the fuck is your problem? Okay. So, what did I do? I'm sorry. What did I do? I just was asking for directions, bro. I was just asking for directions, bro. Bro, I was asking for directions, man. What is your problem, man? Okay.
It doesn't matter. At this point, you're resisting arrest. That's how that goes. Based on what? You don't just get to create the situation and then order me around unjustly and then claim by me not following your unjust orders that I'm somehow now resisting arrest or obstructing anything. That's what they do. And this is not even remotely new, guys. We've been dealing with this our entire lives. The problem, though, is it's gotten worse with what they've allowed, right? And so if you don't know, the kid won, all charges dismissed, and not the police, not the local individual cop, the county, you had to pay him $9.3 million. I'm glad he won because he deserves to, but the fact that you had to pay for it is the entire problem with this system. Here's the report, June 14, 2023. Jury awards $9.3 million to a man wrongly arrested by Dearborn officer. Funny how that's the focus, right? Or rather not the focus in cases like this, but made up stories about fraud that does exist, but it's overblown because of political agendas. You know, this is a common reality. And now they got ICE marching through there with new justification. Here's another example, police to police. NYPD SUV plows down crowd of people standing on the sidewalk. You might have seen this. This is not a news story. Now, guess what, though? The police lie about it. Now, who knows why, guys? I think it's because they just cover for themselves. This is not new. It's not unique to police. But realize with this already being something that was there, what we're seeing and what's happening is making this explode. Here's what happened.
But while officers were responding to this call of a vehicle.
So what you're hearing is the NYPD Chief of Patrol, Jeffrey B. Mattery, relaying what happened to somebody else while they're overlapping that with the video of what actually happened. So for the podcast, what you're going to see is a police car that just randomly swerves into a sidewalk and kills people. And what the NYPD officer was claiming is that he swerved to avoid hitting a car that was turning into him. Never happened.
Vehicle being stolen. Officers were responding to this call of a vehicle being stolen. We had a marked 4x4 headed northbound on Westchester Avenue. When they got to the intersection of Poe Avenue, there was a vehicle right in front of them. The officers crossed over the double yellow line to go.
You can see the vehicle, and you can very clearly see the cop who irrationally swerved around him. Now, either way,
there was a vehicle right in front of them. The officers crossed over the double yellow line to go around the vehicle, but the vehicle made a left-hand turn, at which point the department vehicle and the civilian vehicle, they clipped each other.
This whole thing, you just watch the video, guys. Just made it up, like being attacked with a shovel or claiming you're being shot when you're not, right? Like being shot at. She had an automatic rifle. Nope, she didn't. You lied. She sure has had a license for it, which is what you looked up, but it was back at her house when that happened. All these are stories we've already shown you. Point is, this is everywhere, and it's only getting worse. Here's some current examples. Here's an example of what people like Elon Musk would scream about all day long. It happens in the UK, but never, or of course, under a Democrat administration, but not now, right? Now, this is Texas police officers showing up unannounced at a U.S. veteran's house, which doesn't make it any more or less important, other than if you feel like it shouldn't happen more so to veterans, but, you know, matters for partisan perspective. In the case that they're showing up to a U.S. veteran's home, and I'll let it speak for itself. Here's what he literally said. I'm not even surprised that he said it this clearly.
Try that again.
We're here because of the comments you made online about the...
Try that again.
We're here because of the comments you made online about the Jewish community.
Okay, so it's low. He says, we're here about the comments you made online about the Jewish community. Okay, so if did you break a law? Like, look, people are disgusting. There are plenty of people out there that make terrible comments. Who knows if that's him or not? I don't know. People have terrible things about Jews, terrible things about Christians, terrible things about Muslims. It's all over this platform. The idea is it's free speech. That's the point. Isn't that what Elon Musk tells you he's protecting? But here are people in the administration he's supporting, or just the enforcement arm that they're all a part of, left or right, coming out and telling you that we're concerned. We're gonna come up to you and investigate you for your safety because of things you said online. This is a sign that we've always called out about other dystopian areas in the world. It's right in front of you guys.
Try that again.
We're here because of the comments you made online about the Jewish community.
So what?
No, I'm saying, are you...
I have a freedom of speech, dude.
Yeah, no, we get that. We get that.
Do you have a warrant?
No, that's why we're
here.
here.
You see that sign? Yeah. So that says no soliciting. What you're doing is basically soliciting. You understand that, right? Yeah. It means you're not welcomed here. Okay. Bye.
Now you get this.
Stay off the lawn,
please. Here takes pad out, write down his personal license plate information or whatever he's taking right there. Just to look, you know, this threat. It's a threatening thing. What it is. We're watching you, right? It's insane, guys. I don't care what your comments are. You have the right to say them. Isn't that what we all pretend in this country? Not
this
here.
Is what they're doing, guys. You make comments about the Jews online, they'll fucking show up at your door.
And look, just the same point as always, guys. You know my opinions about what this is. This guy may believe it. Maybe he's being fooled by the Zionist agenda. Maybe I'm wrong. It's irrelevant. The point is, he has a right to say what he wants, no matter how insulting, no matter how offensive to you. And that's what you get. Now, again, the same point.
This is what they do. This is freedom of
Laura Loomer says to kill every Muslim, that Muslims shouldn't exist. No, they do not. What's the difference?
speech. This is how much control Israel has over our country.
3 of them. Right?
Look at this response.
Local police
for exercising my freedom of speech online. Wow. What a fucking joke.
What
a
like,
fucking joke.
Highway patrol or something like that, you know? So all the different levels. Show of force.
Can't wait to do some auditing of you boys. Bye-bye. Got no warrant. Bye-bye.
So, very chilling. Very common. And this person, Kentucky statesman, just says, who militarized our law enforcement agencies after 9/11? Well, it was both. Both left and right. It's continuing. So here's Blue Lives Matter. And this is a pro-cop account that says, we hate having to call cops out, which speaks for itself anyway. Why? Would you just call it out if they're brave? Which they're doing. I'll give them credit for that. But it says, but when you're wrong, you're wrong. A Midland police officer, I used to live in Midland, pepper sprayed a seated citizen inside City Hall who was requesting paperwork. So ask yourself, why in the world this person believes this makes sense? The only thing I can think of, look, there's been examples of this, that's my point, that have been there, but it's so rampant and so consistent right now. The question is, how is it possible in a world today with the internet and all the at-large information that people like this believe that this is justifiable? They're being taught that's justifiable. There's really no way around that. That is the system that tells you about free speech and freedom and democracy and liberty that's literally teaching the enforcement arm that your rights don't matter. You need to see where we are right now.
Get your hands off of me.
I'm going to spray you because I will.
You do what you feel is necessary. Mom.
Okay. What's going on?
With who?
Are you guys, everybody okay here? I see you're recording, so I'm going to assume there's probably an issue or something.
Well, yeah.
They sure hate being recorded, don't they? Even though that's the rights that they're supposed to be protecting.
It's your issue. You have an issue with me or what?
No. I'm asking why you're recording.
Because it's my right as an American citizen. Yes, ma'am.
So I'm pretty sure they probably asked you to leave, correct?
No, nobody's asked me to leave.
Okay. Well, now I'm going to ask you to leave, okay? So I'm going to need you to leave the premises.
You're going to ask me to leave on what grounds, ma'am?
No crime. If it was a crime, you'd get arrested. I'm just asking you to leave.
Right.
Am I being criminally?
That's undeniably clear, and the same thing as last time. You're not doing anything wrong, otherwise you'd be arrested, right? That's basically a threat. So like the same point. If I have a right to leave, then I have a right to stay. Or the idea of the filming is a good response I've been seeing. It's like, well, basically we were supposed to film. Well, I forget what they said. Bottom line is your right to film as well for your protection. They say the same thing, so we're both good with it, right? There shouldn't be any issue, right? Since we're both doing it for the same reason. It's like that's how you would play that.
Trespass?
Hold on, let me go back.
Leave on what grounds, ma'am?
No crime. If it was a crime, you'd get arrested. I'm just asking you to leave.
Am I being criminally trespassed?
Can I have you stand up? We can speak a little bit more outside.
No. You need to call your supervisor over here right now.
Okay. We can speak outside.
No. I'm going to stand right here and wait for him. No. I'm going to sit right here and wait for him.
You're either going to have to get up on your own or we're going to have to escort you out.
Oh, you're going to arrest me?
Right there. And even the Blue Lives Matter calls it out. There is a policy that's driving this. There's no way around that. There's no crime. I made that clear. Like, they should be taught better how to avoid explicitly stating they're violating your rights. It's stupidity, really. You're not breaking the law. Okay, well, there you go. Then move along. But now I'm requiring you to move outside based on what? Like, this is an authority figure who thinks they have the authority to direct you whether or not you agree. Like, you just have to comply. Otherwise, you're breaking the law. That's not the law, guys. That's the whole point of the way the system was put together. Which is why, even though I don't agree with the state of society, I do believe the Constitution is something that has had the best effect on some level of accountability. But as somebody made a great point about this. Bottom line is, look at where we are. So either it failed or it was never designed to work. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that entirely, but it's a fair point to make. That's why I argue, no matter what, that we shouldn't be fighting. Government shouldn't exist. That's I always held that stance. Either way, though, these are people who are now trying to push you based on they believe they've just got natural authority, not based on the Constitution, not based on the law, but based on the idea that they wear the badge, so you have to listen to me. It's like it's Kenny out of South Park. Like, that's what I feel like this is. So that's where this has gone already, just like the one we just saw. You're not breaking the law, but I'm asking you to get up and you're not. So therefore, now that you're refusing, now I have to conduct force. And she's wrong. She's breaking the law, violating his rights.
What if I don't get up? I'm gonna stand right here and wait for him. No, I'm gonna sit right here and wait for him.
You're either gonna have to get up on your own or we're gonna have to escort you out.
Oh, you gonna arrest me or what if I don't get up? I'm in a public building.
Okay, I'm asking you to leave.
So what? Who are you to ask me to leave?
Right. Officer, clearly.
That bothered her.
Under what grounds?
Okay.
See? You know why that bothered too? Because she doesn't know. And you can see it. There's no reason. There's no law. She wouldn't even probably know what to cite. Okay. And what you keep getting from ones like that, oh, you're one of those, because they know they're outmatched. They don't understand even what they're being thrown at. Like, these people are half the time citing their own policies at them. They're, 101 dot whatever, and they don't even know them. As the police officer, that's not all of them. Supervisors seem to know more and more today, but you can see it. I'll play it again. She didn't like that because she doesn't know.
Okay, I'm asking you to leave.
So what? Who are you to ask me to leave?
Officer, clearly.
Under what grounds?
Okay.
So you're not gonna get up?
I want your supervisor to come over here. No.
We can ask for him outside.
No.
Why would I be forced to go outside in a 100-degree temperature? I've been waiting here for a document from the
They don't want you
city.
in the building.
Who doesn't want me in the building?
The people who work here. They don't want you in the building, okay?
Where is your complainant?
They are.
Who's there?
Okay, you need to get on, put my hands on you and get you out.
See?
I'm trying to do this a good way. Let's go outside and we can talk out there. I'll call my supervisor, give you all the answers you want to all your questions.
Call him right now.
To dictate these things. The law doesn't just put on pause until you decide it should be acknowledged. That's the whole point here. She wants it to be done her way. Doesn't matter what the law is. And on top of that, guys, we're talking about a government building here. He has a legal right to be doing what he's doing. If he's not violating anything, he's not doing something against their policies, there is no justification here, which, by the way, is why she's ultimately wrong, as we started with.
I'm or articulate a crime or call him right now.
Let's go.
Exactly.
Let's go.
Look at that right there. That's huge. This person should never be able to wear a badge again. You're putting your hands on me based on what? Am I being detained? No. Then you've just not only just violated my rights, you broke the law. You're assaulting me, which is what cops will do in reverse.
Get your hands off of me. You're assaulting me. You are assaulting me. Get your hands off of me. Get your hands off of me.
I'm going to spray you because I will.
You do what you feel is necessary.
Is what she is. Praise him.
Oh! You son of a...
Walk out.
Ah!
Walk out.
Insane.
Let's come over here.
Oh!
Hey. Deal.
Ah! Ah! Ah!
Oh, yeah. Now, for what?
No. What are you doing?
For what?
Hold on.
Ah! Ah! Am I under arrest? Are you placing me under arrest?
Clearly.
And for what? Articulated reason. Ah!
Nope. Has anybody even told him why? Has anybody... Nothing. These are criminals, guys. These are criminals. I don't care what you're wearing.
Give me my phone back, sir.
It's time far past time that people just acknowledge that. I don't believe that most Americans even remotely agree with this. Even the groups that are put together to literally support them are saying she broke the law, right? Video shows him seated, speaking without becoming violent, ordered him to leave. Bottom line is she broke the law, guys. There's no way around that. Nobody seems to care. I'm going to follow up on this one best I can as well. This is brand new. This just keeps happening. Here's an example from before. This guy, same thing, showed up to his house. You're the guy. Now think about this in the context of AI today, because this is not brand new. They show up and they say, this is the guy from the warrant. Guess what? They're wrong. I'm not going to play the whole thing. It's long, but just to quickly show you that this is what it went to violence. Why? Because how dare you not just blindly follow our orders? All they had to do was confirm it, just like ICE does today, or rather ICE doesn't do today.
trying to identify. Do I look 36 years old? Born in 1962.
You got a warrant for your arrest?
Screaming.
For what? Don't fight me.
Hold up. For
Is
what?
your name Harry? Violation of probation.
Look, they literally grab his arm when he opens the door. I mean, what are we talking about, guys?
You got the wrong guy, asshole. Get your arms off me.
What's your last name?
Get your hands off me.
What's your name?
My name is Harry.
Harry what?
You can't chuck.
Step outside.
You're an asshole.
You don't
Get
have
a
to step.
supervisor here now.
No, sir. You have
Get
a warrant for your arrest.
No, I don't. Get a supervisor here now, you idiots. Now! Get somebody here that knows what they're doing.
We'll get somebody here, but step out for us. Sir.
Now!
We just have to verify this information and everything.
Get
See?
somebody
It's the
here.
same thing.
Read your information. Check your warrant.
So now that they're wrong, and they are, that's proven. And the point is they're saying, and you can look at the picture of the actual guy, by the way, and the age. These are idiots. I mean, blind order followers. That's the whole point. Who don't even understand the laws guiding those things. Step outside. We just want to talk about this. I mean, this is not just alarming. Like, there's something eerie about this. You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about? Step outside. I'm at my home. I don't know what you're talking. You haven't even explained yourselves yet. What the F is happening? You just grab my wrist and start demanding that I'm the person? All you have to do is check.
It's Harry Deshanik. That's what the name
First off, that's how it's pronounced.
Okay.
And read your warrant. Look at the picture on your warrant. Look at the
It
picture.
looks just like you.
Look at the picture on your warrant.
It looks just like you, sir.
Get your picture out.
So you know where this goes.
Okay. I don't like the description.
Look at that. They literally pushed him in his own front door over the back. They could have broke his neck right there. They don't care.
I'm not even on probation. Do I look 36 years old? What like that?
Let's get him up. Harry, can you please just get up, okay?
Why are we going to get him up when he's already fighting? I'm not on fine, with no problems. I'd go to work.
I got you, Harry, but
now. Well, I don't have any drugs. Well, they put a warrant out for you.
Well, who cares? Like, what? I mean, see, this is, it's not though, right? They're wrong. It's not him. My God, the abuse of authority is beyond the pale. And this is not new. This has only gotten worse. You add this kind of abuse and you bring in something like ICE. That is where we are right now. That is what our government has allowed, has done to us. Here's an example of a woman standing next to cops who are arresting somebody. And at this point, we should be questioning in what grounds. Look at the way he reacts. You tell me this is justified. Right? You tell me why that's justified. You get up and you literally shove her to the ground. She wasn't hurting. She's standing and looking at what's happening, probably filming. That's probably what bothered him.
Hey, bro. Damn.
How dare you have a problem with that? How dare you go, you shouldn't have done that? Well, guess what? I'm going to throw you to the ground again. That's abuse of power. No matter how you think.
What? Hey!
What
the fuck?
Here it comes.
What are y'all doing? Yo, this going online, bro.
This is what a police state looks like. I don't know if you've recognized that yet, or if the partisan screaming out there are enough to convince you it's not true. This is what a police state looks like. 21 years old. The charges against her were dropped, but the cop who actually committed the assault has not been charged. Same old story. So she was not guilty, as we all saw. This one, now, based on time, I'm ultimately going to have to skip some of the overlap with the flock camera stuff. We'll get into it next. But really, just this is the main focal point. But I was going to continue to overlap, but I'll give you some points to wrap up. But after these last few examples, the point was the technological tools they're using. But this part's the real focus of today. Here's an example of a black kid walking in the street who gets treated the same way. Now, the same argument applies. My opinion, based on the evidence, is he wasn't doing anything wrong, other than maybe jaywalking in response to a cop who was aggressively walking after him. My point would be, though, even if he did something wrong, what the cop did here was against the law. He had no proof. He had assumption. He had concern. Oh, you're wearing a hoodie, or I think you look like a bad kid. Watch.
Be wearing that jacket. You're gonna get hit by a car here. You're gonna get hit by a car here. Stop. Stop. I'm asking you to stop. I'm asking you to stop. I'm doing a traffic stop on you.
A traffic stop. Okay. So first of all, the point is the kid was walking, as is followed up on the story, and I'll show you the actual article. And the guy thought he wearing a hoodie and it's hot outside, right? That's the same thing. And says, well, no, basically he was following him, and there's more to it. And then the kid is just walking away. So he tries to cross the street. Now, the point is he was following him for a different reason, an assumption. And then it becomes, oh, well, you jaywalked. Well, clearly this is what's important to them, right? And then ends up doing all that he does because of that.
I'm asking you to stop. I'm asking you to stop. I'm doing a traffic stop on you.
Back in the car, handcuffed.
I was redirected to your guys' office.
Now, this is somebody following up as the representative of the family to try to contact the office to get more information. I find this to be so. What it shows you is either one of two things: an awareness that you're breaking the law and an unwillingness to cooperate with her, or the fact that you've been trained to think that there's this evil Democrat force trying to make us look like we're doing something wrong. So you just don't answer questions, or right or left, or however you look at it, because that's what's happening to some people now. And so even if you argue that, you still have a legal obligation to do what you're supposed to do. That's like ICE saying Democrats are trying to hurt us, therefore I'm going to break the law. That's not how that works. Even though, and especially since you can prove that's not even the real picture. I'm sure there are people in both sides of a paradigm that may try to break the law, but isn't that your job? So you break the law, you get the point.
To speak with District Attorney Marino by the Williamsport Bureau of Police about a story I'm working on.
I'm afraid as of right now, we don't have any comment.
No comment?
Oh, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Just to make sure, the officer who was following the teenager around with the hood on?
Yep. As of right now, we don't have any comment.
I'm just trying to figure out, because
isn't that weird that she immediately knew what the story she was referring to without any detail? That's pretty odd to me.
Said he's not with Williamsport. Can you tell me who he's with? Is he an official
police
officer? Or is he just some random guy?
Same point with the ICE stuff.
Right now, we can't comment. I'm going to hang up now. No.
I can't comment. I'm going to hang up now? You tell me that feels right.
To leave a voicemail, please press 2. Lycoming County District Attorney's Office.
Hey, you hung up on me just now. This is Mary calling again. I just need to know, because right now I'm identifying that guy as just a citizen. I just need to confirm, is he a officer, some kind of law enforcement? I don't want to make stuff up. So can you tell me who he is or where he works? Hello? Ma'am, he's wearing a police vest too. All right, bye.
That's where we are. I mean, you're talking about the district attorney's office. You're just going to blatantly ignore. I mean, how do you not understand what that shows you? That's a circling of the wagons of the authority. Like, the adult dying empire is not an analogy, guys. We are watching this thing shrivel in front of us. And it's not about Americans or our beliefs or our history. It's about the government that has taken control of all of that and has been driving it into the ground. You can make it about Israel. There's a valid point to be made. You can make it about the current structure. Either way, this is alarming. And the consistency of this tactic shows you they're knowingly breaking the law. Viral video of teen stopped by detectives sparks scrutiny in Williamsport, July 9th, 2026. I mean, I'm just for time in general. The point is, he said this was his son has the first encounter of his life with police officer. They said he looked suspicious because he had his hood up and jacket on. He said, if you know me, you know I don't play when it comes to my kids. Now, of course, he's a father. He could be lying. He could be incorrect. I mean, who knows? But it says in the video, He's conducting a traffic stop. A traffic stop for somebody walking on the street? Seems weird. And then, of course, the whole point was he followed him he basically, unjustly just berated this kid until the kid tried to cross the street, and that's what he used to go after him. It says at the same time, this is a lesson for both of us. I need to make sure he knows how to interact with police, even when he feels like he's done nothing wrong. Things can escalate. He ended up being handcuffed and detained. It says Lopez explained one part I was trying to find real quick. Oh, his argument was he wears the hoods because he has eczema and it keeps the sun off his face. Who knows? Maybe that's true. I've known a person like that, but it could be the lie to cover that he was, who knows? It doesn't change the reality of his rights. Yeah, it says Lopez reached by phone earlier, said the confrontation began before his son ever started recording. He said his son had told him narcotics detectives passed him, made a U-turn, and began watching him as he walked toward his grandmother's house. Now, he said he's tried calling him several times, but he couldn't reach him because his dad was at work. Now, this is all on the record. Like the fact that he tried to text him, said his police were, Lopez called back. His son texted him, his police were bothering him. It says by the time Lopez got in touch with the detectives, he said his son was already in the back of the patrol car. He said he answered his son's phone on speaker and told him he detained his son because he wasn't stopping or responding. Ha! Okay, so then it wasn't jaywalking, right? So you turned this into something it wasn't. You turned his evasion of you, which was unjustified stopping in the first place, into the crime, and then used the jaywalking he did to get away from you, violating his rights, to turn it into he was one breaking the law. It's a tactic. That means they don't care about your rights. They see it as a maneuver to get around. He said the call was cut off when he reached his son again. The teen told him he'd let him go. So they let him go. Wait a minute. So he let him go, so he didn't jaywalk then? It wasn't about jaywalking at all, it seems. Lopez said his son had told him he asked a series of questions about the stop, including whether he had drugs or marijuana on him, along with questions about weapons. He didn't have any. He's now trying to get the body camera footage, but which I guarantee you they just didn't have. Whoopsie, was turned off when it probably wasn't. People are upset, obviously. Undercover county detectives conducting crime suppression patrol, they said, in an effort to suppress recent uptick in gun violence. This is their explanation. There's bad things happening. Shots were fired over bad things and stuff, and so that way we violate your rights. That is not how that works. Safety does not equate to violating rights. I don't care what you think justifies, there is no line. On April 27th, the man was shot, they say, and then basically shots were fired between two people. Basically, the whole thing is 2 people were fired on, 4 shots were fired. During the morning of July 8th, an undercover detective reported seeing a young man walking on the street in the general area where that happened before. That's it. The detective said he was wearing a puffy jacket with his hood up. That's it, guys. He was a black guy on the street in a place where things happened the week before, and he had a coat on. And it's hot outside. So therefore, he's probably a criminal. That's not, if that's not profiling, we don't know what is, guys. That's insane. And you may think that's what they're supposed to do. It's not. They're supposed to enforce the law, not just gin up crimes based on what they think is happening. Detective Havens attempted to engage with him in conversation. However, he continued walking away. That's what happened. Then you saw it from there. Then they made up everything else. Also, guess what? So after this went viral and super viral, 6 million views on multiple platforms, on Instagram, it really did go crazy. July 15th, a week goes by. The cops are angry that this went viral. Guess what? They follow up and charge him with jaywalking. You have to understand how broken this is. They are punitive. They want to punish you for making them look stupid. So they go, you know what? Charge him with that jaywalking ticket. The thing they let him go for the first time because it wasn't what they even cared about. That's an abuse of power, no matter how you spin it. Now here, I'm just trying to think. Yeah, we'll end with this, I think. And I'll just do some of this next time. Here's a clip of somebody engaging with the cop and being disrespectful, if you want to frame it like that. I think it's just his right to say what he wants. The point is, imagine if everybody talked to police this way. Now, the first point to make is that some of the police out there will break your window if you do this. Will literally drag you out of your car for no reason. We just saw that. The point, though, is that if everybody knew their rights and engaged with them as such, we would not be in this position. Or at least we would, and we would recognize very clearly as a collective what the problem was. And we're getting there. But what I think is most important is that you can see 2 things. 1, that this guy knows his rights and is not breaking them because the cop threatens him. But 2, that the cop is using every possible deceptive, manipulative, dishonest tool he can just to get this guy out of his car. And you watch, you'll see it. The cop is making things up, lying about things. This is an important lesson.
Now?
Why do you pull me over?
I'll tell you that if you roll it down.
Why can't you tell me now?
Because the reason I pulled you over is you were yelling something from your car.
So what?
Huh?
So what?
I'll tell you this right now to start because it makes it more clear. Apparently, he claimed at the end he yelled like F the police out of his car, which is his right, isn't it? But now you see where this is going, that the cop is angry because now, and what you can almost see it on his expression. He's abusing his power to hassle this guy because the guy did something that insulted him, and you're not allowed to do that to a cop. That's how he feels. It's very clear. And so he gins up this justification to mess with him. That's what this is.
What? That's why you pull me over, because I'm yelling?
I don't know if you roll it down.
Why can't you tell me now?
Because the reason I pulled you over is you were yelling something from your car.
So what?
Huh?
So what? That's why you pull me over, because I'm yelling?
I don't know if you're in need of help or anything.
Oh, great. So here we are again. No, I'm good, man. Fuck off. Excuse me. That's the second time I've done that, probably in the entire time I've been doing this. I don't know why. Last time was like a few weeks ago. I apologize. The point is, because you know how I feel about it, leave, right? I'm okay. You're wondering if I'm okay? Leave. I'm okay, man. The point is, he doesn't care if you're okay. He's using that as an excuse, play acting into this to go, I just thought maybe when you yelled F the police that you were in danger. Did you now?
I don't need help. Thank you.
Okay, let me see your driver's license real quick.
I don't need help.
Okay, can I see your driver's license?
What
are we talking about? So you want to make sure I'm okay? I'm fine. Now let me see your driver's license. Well, that was clearly a manipulation. Well, at this point, you should be done with the conversation.
For?
Did you use a turn signal when you made a turn?
Of course I did. You can hear the sound on the dash cam too.
Let me you just crack your window if that's what you want to do.
Use turn signal.
It's already cracked.
I can't see that.
Well,
This thing.
it doesn't matter. Here. I don't wish to answer questions.
You have to let me know if there's a weapon in the car.
No, he doesn't.
Do you not take the class?
I did.
Did they tell you you have to tell them?
When you demand identification, I have to display this. That's what they told me in the class. That's what the law says.
If the officer wants to take the weapon.
And actually, if I don't display, there's really not much you can do because there is no penalty attached to that. I have to carry this if I'm carrying this.
Are you carrying?
I don't answer questions.
Okay, so if you have a weapon in the car, then what?
What?
You got one on your hip.
Right.
So what?
Exactly.
Do I smell alcohol on your breath?
See, now, just move on, right? So you got outplayed. The point was, so you caught me. Like, the point in that is, first, there's some people that may argue that that's a problem. Well, what is he doesn't know? Well, I guess respectfully, you don't understand your own rights, first of all. And plenty of people in the world don't agree, even Americans. Is what it is at the moment. You can disagree that we should have the right to bear arms. It is the reality of our Constitution. So the point would be, well, you have a gun, then no, I have to know. Well, no, you don't. That's not how this works. If, as somebody's recently pointing out, if suddenly having a gun, which is your legal right, then makes you more of a threat for them to enforce upon, well, then you don't have that right, guys. So this is the game. Is that, well, I need to know. Well, you have one too, so we're fine. I'm filming, you're filming. We're good. Move forward. So he does. All that shows you is he was playing. He's maneuvering the law, or rather just moving around the law to try to abuse it against you. And then it didn't work, so he moves to the next ploy.
No, you don't.
How do I know?
Because you can't. I'm carrying this.
Are you carrying?
I don't answer questions.
Okay, so if you have a weapon in the car, then what?
You got one on your hip. So what?
Do I smell alcohol on your breath?
No, you don't.
How do I know?
Because you can't smell my breath?
I can smell something coming out.
Oh, really?
Let's see.
My God. And so again, that's why it's important to start with that first part, because this guy's clearly hassling him for no reason. Because he yelled at him. But so, I think I smell alcohol. No, you don't. Well, how do I know? The window's closed. Oh, so you just lied? It's brazen, guys. This is the normal cop in my lifetime experience. I've met a few good ones, for sure.
I don't think so.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, where are you coming from?
Huh?
Where are you coming from?
You saw me where I was coming from.
No, I just saw you driving down.
Are you done with this?
I'm done with that, yeah.
All right, cool.
Where are you coming from?
I don't answer questions. I've already told you. Let me know when I'm free to go. Also, what is your name? What's your name? Your name? Sheriff? That's your name? Sheriff?
Right about it right there.
I'm not familiar with the English alphabet, sir. Okay. Can I have an incident number, please? Oh, a ticket. A ticket, okay.
Sir, do me a favor. While I have you here, okay, I don't want you exiting the vehicle because you have a weapon in the car.
Did I exit the?
Or I'm going to.
Did I exit the vehicle? Did I exit the vehicle?
Give you a heads up.
Did I exit the vehicle? Hey, can I? You do have a dash cam, right? Very good. You can't just pull me over because I said fuck the police. I hope you realize that. Stupid fuck. I'm sorry?
You have insurance on the vehicle?
Yeah.
Can you show it to me, please? It doesn't come back.
Of course it comes back.
Not on my system, it doesn't. Also, it's not typical behavior for somebody to be yelling out of the vehicle. Have you had anything to drink tonight? Is that your current address?
What does that even mean? Typical behavior? So now we're socially profiling? Is it illegal to yell? What are we talking about?
1622?
Is that a question?
Yes, sir. Is that your current
Do
address?
I answer questions?
Okay, I'll just assume that's incorrect then.
And why would you do that?
Right.
Did you read my address on the driver
It
license?
didn't have an address. It didn't have an apartment number on your driver's
Of course it does.
Let me see. Can you verify?
You've already seen it.
You see,
I've already complied.
You can see it on him. He wants so badly to make this person suffer for the fact that he's not just complying with his authority. And even worse, that he's doing it in the best possible way. The one that doesn't allow him to do what he wants to do.
With that part.
I know, but I'm just saying it didn't have a driver. It didn't have an apartment number.
Of course it does.
On your driver license.
Man.
Okay, I'll be right back.
See?
And I say that I've never met.
Oh, yeah, it didn't matter because I was lying. So just you didn't do it. So I'll move along. Here's the next ploy. Insane.
Anybody quite like you that would yell at an officer doing their job, but
so
have a great
let me understand.
No fines, no penalties.
May I ask you?
I've never met somebody like you who yells at a cop. You mean like so you don't exist on this planet? Apparently, there's just this reverence. You're supposed to just be thank you for your service. You could do that if you want. Not all of them deserve that. Very few, in my experience.
Apartment number.
Of course it does.
On your I'll be right back. And I say that I've never met anybody quite like you that would yell at an officer doing their job, but
so
have a great
let me understand.
No fines, no penalties.
May I ask you a question? Yeah, no, I have a question. Can you get your supervisor here, please? Is the stop over?
The stop is over. You may leave.
All right. Well, you said the stop is over, right? Okay, I'm not getting out.
Just dangerous. I mean, my opinion, like I was saying before, guys. This guy's obviously trying to hassle the cop back, and he has every right to. He's not breaking the law. So again, that's the line, guys. Everything else is your personal opinion. So the bottom line is, though, why would you push that? Right? For all you, right there, some of these police officers would have drawn their weapon on you. Just to make a point, even because they feel the ice, you probably already been shot. I just want you to understand how serious that is. But at the same point, he's not breaking the law. You have every right to do every single thing he just did. Those are facts, not even about opinion. You may even disagree. I mean, there's some cases where I argue that's probably the most dangerous thing you could do.
Okay, there is no need to draw your weapon, man. Are you fucking drawing your weapon, you fucker? I didn't get out of the car. You told me that already. Yeah. Did I get out of the car? Go fuck yourself. Yeah, right over there you can.
I mean, frankly, I think the cop deserves that. Right? But at the end of the day, I just think that's incredibly dangerous. Right? Ultimately, the cop pulls his weapon just to make a point. You're lucky you didn't go further than that. And that's because what you did at the end there was just to make that point. There wasn't any gain from that. Right? If you're in a position where they're trying to invade your privacy and break the law, stand your ground, hold your rights, but don't go, in my opinion, over the top and antagonize them for no reason. It's just not in your interest, guys. But he has a right to. That's what matters. On top of that, I want to reiterate this video that you might have seen before. What you're looking at here is a IDF member who we've already shown you across this country, not everywhere, but across this country, IDF members are in fact training police, are in fact training ICE members, as have been exposed by many different overlaps. I believe even The Intercept did something on that. In this case, you have an IDF member who stopped a Palestinian family and didn't get the answers they liked, so he literally threw a blast grenade into the car and held the door shut. You tell me this does not ring true with what we're seeing our authorities start to do in this country. Holds the door shut. Boom. There you go. Just walks away like nothing happened. Go on about your day. That, guys, is what, at least in part, is guiding where we're going. Now, to finish up, I will come back to this. I just recently pointed to this. Leaked documents show the surveillance tech at ISIS fingertips. And it is extensive. It's insane. And almost all of it is completely intertwined with Israeli intelligence. I'll save this for later. Just interesting examples of people having what's called a duress password, where ICE is going, give me your password, even though you're not legally required to comply, even though they tell you that you are. And there's a duress password on some of these de-Googled phones where if you type in the wrong code just one time, it wipes your phone clear. They're charging this guy, literally charging this person with a crime. Think about that. For deleting your own information. I mean, that's the level of the police state that we're in. I am going to go into this deeper in the future. I wanted to get into the Flock Axon thing more in depth, but I will just simply point out, guys, to be aware of this. I'm going to talk about this probably in the very next show. But as I've been highlighting, the whole Flock thing, regardless of whether it was started by some sort of a artificial drive, like James Lee is considering whether maybe this was something Trump's administration drove to be able to pivot to Axon, excuse me. I mean, literally, that's what I just talked about. This was back on the 20th. Most of them are now talking about this a week later, a few days later. The point is the Axon Flock bait and switch was something we talked about because it was very clear, but doesn't mean the Flock camera attacks, focus, criticism is all false, even if it was unorganic. So what I want to highlight here is two things. Here's a good clip where you can check out the deflock discussion. What you will notice, guys, Flock cameras, 83% of the cameras, not just Flock, but all of the license plate cameras in the country. Axon falls under the 83 others. It's only about 2 to 3%, and there's others in there. The next closest to Flock, Motorola Solutions, which is actually Vigilant Solutions. Donald Trump bought stock in that alongside Axon. So what's interesting to me is we should question whether Flock itself is sort of the manipulation. But then pivoting to go, well, Axon's the focus might in fact be the manipulation. But all of it might be. Question all of it. Recognize that the license plate readers, which James says as well, are the problem, right? That whole surveillance is the issue. And don't get trapped by the partisan games. That's what we're in right now. Oh, it's all a big trap. Don't listen to it. Well, maybe. But do you care about the Flock cameras? I do. Do you want to stop unconstitutional surveillance? I do. So even if it was a trap, we're still focusing on the problem. I just think it's strange that we're being, like, some people are being tricked into ignoring what they were fighting because they were told that you were being tricked into it. I just don't think, even if I said it already, the bottom line is we're watching this happen. And Flock is 83% of the cameras, even right now, even after the ones that have been canceled. So let's recognize where we are and recognize that Flock, Vigilant Solutions, Axon, all of it, unconstitutional surveillance is the problem. That's the real focus. And stop letting the narratives get in the way. And on top of that, I include this. This is the specifically Motorola. At this point, that was when he bought stock in all of that. And that was including Motorola Solutions, which is the company that is running Vigilant Solutions. And Orwell Day points out that even with all the Flock cameras that have been canceled, like multiple, like 80 of them across the country, 53 of them that have taken over Axon last I checked, many of them quietly. This is still a representation of the ones that we fought. The rest are all still happening. The red is the gray have the cameras. That's where we are. By and large, it's more of a representation. So realize that even if we still have a fight, and some people are acting like suddenly this was all a psyop and it's not real, or whatever, it's confusing. As Bassler points out, regardless of what company it is, this is where this goes. 2026, it's only for stolen cars. We already know it's not true. 2028, well, failure to comply with the lockdown detected. See how easily that happens? And we all know it. And maybe it's a Democrat takes control, if that makes it easier for you to understand, even though it's all the same thing. A lot of this will come back to in general, more local police pushing back or allowing it to happen without justification. Now you have examples where they're literally making sure the contract is under the amount that needs to be required for a vote. So that way they can do it without your vote. And then I guarantee it expands from there after they get beyond that vote. You also have examples where this is original Costa Mesa contract was made in secret, just under the amount, so they wouldn't have to be voted. Same thing. It's happening all across the country. Catherine pointing out that Israel has access to all of this as well, which you should know if you watch this show. We have more things going beyond this called Flock Alpha, which we'll go into more. It's all building around us, guys. Putting Flock cameras in the back of safety, like construction zone things to try to keep you from noticing them. I'll play some of these clips the next time. People are calling out what's happening. We have Trump labeling data centers as military infrastructure, which we all told you was coming and is absolutely actually the reality. And you know why? So we can't stop it. Now it's national security. But on top of that, importantly, to the end, guess who's bombing those? Iran. Which is interesting, right? Because one, they go, well, that's not a military target, but you just called them military infrastructure. So Iran is bombing them. You know why? Because that is the problem. Not because I'm saying, good Iran, we're on their side. I don't support any government. But because Iran recognizes that is what this country is using to build out their weapon system, to build out their Palantir, Absora, Lavender, and the systems aimed at you for your control grid. So it's whether you feel like that's it, they should be doing it or not. This is Iran bombing it because they know the threat of what that is to them, let alone to you. I just found that pretty interesting. Now we have people being arrested for clapping, literally for clapping because people wanted to stop data centers. That's what we're talking about. Getting arrested in a police state because you clapped. NDAs for government around the data centers because we know that's happening. Data center evidence showing you that they don't give you jobs no matter what they lie about. We've covered all of this. Interestingly, this guy that got arrested, remember we covered this, who got arrested for literally talking a second too long and trying to present documents? Well, it turns out this guy actually exposed that there was a falsity around this where they were faking emails. This is on top of what he got arrested for. I'll go into this more. Data center scandal. Who sent fake emails to support their data center? Well, it turns out this guy who literally got arrested, here's the story for it, is one of the people involved with exposing this. There's a reason that they're fighting these people, guys, because they're lying to you. The whole point of it was fake emails pretending to support the data centers when the entire community did not. They're gaslighting you guys. They're gaslighting you. Now, I'll probably end with one of these clips. I'm thinking I'll just do this one since it's a little bit of a humorous edge to finish. There was a clip coming from Tucker talking about the surveillance state coming, but here is a clip from Tim Dillon calling out the Trump administration. Put a little bit of soft edge on the end of it today because it can be pretty intense. But thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you all supporting this platform. As I say every time, guys, we can't do this without you, right? We exist because you support this platform. We don't have advertisers. We don't have large corporate funders. The only thing that keeps this platform going is your $1 donation, is your donation that you sent to my mailbox where you put through the accounts on this platform. That's it. On, the Last American Vagabond platform. So if you believe in this and you want it to continue, let us know what you think this is worth, because we do this for free. We put it out because we believe in it. We believe in you, and we think the information is the most important thing in this conversation. So if you agree, let us know what you think. Thank you for tuning in. I love you all. As always, question everything. Come to your own conclusions. Stay vigilant.
I have right.